All right, welcome everybody to episode number 13 now of This Week in the CBL. Welcome everybody to the show. Guys, how are you doing, Mark? Welcome back. And how you doing, Ram? The Prince Man himself joining me tonight. How are you guys doing tonight?
Awesome, man. Great to be back after on a bit of a heater here. So wahoo wah, happy to rejoin the program in fourth place in the ACC now.
Is that what happened, that you had to wait till your team picked up a bit before you wanted to come back on air?
That is exactly right. That's exactly.
Ram, how did your team do last week?
I'm all right. We picked up a 2-0, but it's not the wins that I wanted. The week before was against Rhode Island, which was the only win that I really wanted all year because I wanted to
trying to get that one in your
I wanted to take the 0. I thought it'd be fun, obviously, and much respect to him as he still was making deals on Sunday up 200 trying to bury me, which is good. It makes me look like I faced a harder road. But at the end of it, I mean, it looks like, and we're going to get into this, but it looks like at least I know my spot's secure for the conference tournament. I'm not too worried about seeding. I just want to make it to the dance. I've been saying that all year in one of the toughest conferences that we've got in this league. So I feel pretty good that I was at least able to make it to the dance.
Yeah, as you should. And you guys, your conference is going to be one of those that I'm really interested in looking forward to. We're going to dive into each of the leagues here in just a few moments and talk about the standings in regard to we're in the final week of the regular season. So next week starts conference tournaments and the NIT. So we will definitely be looking at those races to see who's on the edge of getting into their conference tournament and whatnot, and who is on the way to the NIT. So we'll be doing that here in just a few moments. Before we dive into the rest of the program, Mark, if you guys are watching, you can see the background there. It says Encase Cards. Mark's got a lot of stuff going on with his company that he started. And Mark, I just wanted you to talk about Encase Cards and what that's all about and how people can reach out to you if they're interested.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Yeah, this is a company I started with a couple buddies out here in Los Angeles, and we've been doing this thing about a year now. We've been working with different printers, different designers, and really getting custom trading cards dialed in. So these are keepsakes for family members, little leagues. We're rolling out a couple partnerships this week with a couple of leagues in the Los Angeles greater area, and really kind of hitting our stride as far as a fundraising mechanism. We're finding that people really like us to, adding us to the menu of items. So it's not just the little floppy Jostins or Vistaprint, fake cards. These are real card stock, real graphics.
Slabbed and graded, or no?
Yeah, slabbed and graded. These guys, yeah, they come from.
They are slabbed. I've seen your work. Yeah. Like they are slabbed. Yeah,
these are slabbed. Yeah, these are fully slabbed, fully customizable.
That's cool.
And any occasion, whether that's your kids' little league, like I said, or a graduation, a bachelor party, wedding, a rock band, whatever you want to commemorate and put on the mantle or send to grandma and grandpa. These are high quality. We've got a really persnickety and diligent guy who comes. I'll leave their prior employer out of it, but they do come from the grading universe. So this is our foray into the hobby. We're all big collectors and huge baseball fans, obviously. So we're rolling out these partnerships, and we just appreciate everybody watching to give us a follow. Encase_cards on Instagram. We're also on Facebook and Twitter, and going to be launching our YouTube presence here in the next couple months. But the biggest thing any folks can do right now is visit encasecards.com and jump on our mailing list, jump on the waiting list. And we're going to be rolling out an app as well. So it's super easy to design your cards, and we're shooting for about a 2-week turnaround. So you put them in, pick your effects. We're going to have like a refractor, a cracked ice, glitter. The one I love most is called Magma. It looks like lava and all these holographic swirls and stuff. So I should grab one. I should grab
I
one.
was going to put you on the spot and say,
Yeah,
listen, the best thing you could do for, especially just for me and also for me to show people, is that I know you
Yeah.
have some available.
I
So
do.
if you put them on, you put them up. I just want people to see them, because this is not just because I like you and we work together here, but I've seen the stuff you put out. I do think it looks really cool. As somebody who I collect graded cards. I have some slabs and things like that myself. I think it's really nice what you put together. So I think if people see it, it's easier for them to be like, oh yeah, I want that on my man on my shelf. So that'd be the easiest thing. I'll tell you that right now.
Awesome.
Show off the work.
I'm gonna go grab one. I'm gonna grab one here in a second, and I'll put it up for everybody to see.
Well, while you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and we won't waste too much time as far as getting into our top 25. I know that's something that a lot of people in the league look forward to each week, is seeing our updated top 25 rankings every week. And here we go. We'll just dive right in. We've got our top 25. The top 10 starts out with Dallas Baptist, no surprise. Number 2 is Rhode Island. Number 3, LSU, followed by Baylor, Northern Colorado, Santa Clara, Florida International, Tennessee, Cal, and Indiana State rounds out our top 10. Ram, you got any comments on the new top 25 or in the top 10 or any comments at all?
Yeah, let's go for a few things here. Right off, we can see it looks like we fixed the glitch in the others receiving votes. So thank you to the boys, because we're seeing it looks like to be the 30 teams that I would guess receive votes altogether for the top 25. And this late in the season, it makes sense to me that we've got about 30 teams getting votes overall for a top 25. We've pretty much solidified the whole thing. And now cycling through the actual top 25, Butler and TCU expected drops. Maybe not that big of a drop for TCU as Butler did. Butler lost, and any loss reflects real harshly amongst this community with some real top teams. And TCU, I believe, did not lose, but they scored a lower amount. They may have missed the league average. That might have been it. And so that's why they dropped. But you can see in that top, we've got 11 on the side there, right? There was one swap of Rhode Island and LSU, and the entirety of the top 11 stayed the same, right? And even down to the top 12.
And here we've got, East Tennessee State is a little upset that the only ACC squad represented on the sheet is Clemson in the others receiving votes. No more top 25 teams for the ACC. East Tennessee State, they're at the top of the league for the season. So that's kind of an interesting factoid there that Clemson is the only team even getting votes. I think, and I will give the disclaimer that I did not vote again this week. This is 3 weeks in a row where I've worked late on Mondays and Tuesdays, both. And so I did not get my votes in any of those 3 weeks now. So I'm going to have to get back on that. I guess this will be probably our final top 25 of the season, since we're headed to the postseason with our next week. So, apologies to you guys in the voting committee that I kind of dropped the ball on that, but this is definitely an interesting top 25. Like, when I look at the others receiving votes, the team that jumps out at me is Mississippi State.
They're in my top 25.
They were pretty highly ranked in our preseason poll, and then they completely dropped off the map. And then they've kind of bounced back and forth into the fringe category of the top 25, and then completely out of receiving votes. They've just kind of yo-yoed back and forth all year. And here they are. I'm looking at the SEC standings. They're 20-8 on the year, solidly in fifth place in the SEC. So interesting to see where they are and how they've kind of fought back into the top 25. I think Kentucky's kind of done the same thing, but we're always rooting for them to lose anyway.
I have Mississippi State up there. I do not have Pepperdine. I'm not doing that to be mean to Pepperdine. If you're out there listening, I just want to be clear about the fact that Pepperdine's not my top 25. Otherwise, it looks to be just about the same teams. I was making jokes in the servers the other day that the Bears are sticking together and the Bulldogs are sticking together, and the Bears are 4-5 and the Bulldogs are 17-18. So birds of a feather flock together. In this case, 4-footed ones, but they're figuring things out. I mean, Butler, I think, is an interesting one we always talk about because they have managed to stay at least around top to middle of the pack for a while. I know they've been a drop, but they're not very active. They made no trades, right? And they've been able to keep it steady. Now, they took a big loss here going into the end of the year. We're going to see what happens going into the playoffs, because I keep talking about this ad nauseum in the Discord, right? This is single elimination playoffs, right? So if you're, the guys that are like, DVU put up 1,500 last week. I think it was the highest score we've had all year, right? And you saw immediately some comments back like, well, maybe you don't want to get hot this week and last week, because you're going to need it in a week. You're going to need it in 2 weeks. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because no team has held the top scoring spot all year. Multiple weeks, the only one who's done it, I think, is DVU. So going to be real interesting in about a week.
It depends where that heat is coming from, right? I mean, some guys have a bad first half and then they turn it on. You look at Corbin Carroll last year, horrible first half, then finally starts to get on a heater after the All-Star game. And what's crazy about this format, I think will be really interesting, is which of these teams, Mississippi State, that's one of those back of the baseball card type of teams. Is that a team that, does Nick Castellanos get on a heater? Does Austin Hayes become what he was partially from last year? Does Brian Reynolds figure it out? That's another one of those back of the baseball card. Jose Ramirez is always going to produce, but does that team get really hot and run through the SEC tournament?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this has been an interesting top 25 here, because I mean, in my opinion, like Florida International, haven't they dropped quite a bit? Weren't they like in the top 5 recently?
I think that's, if I'm being
right?
honest, it might be a matter of the amount of voters, because I think it looks like we might have only had 5 people go in this week. And so myself being one of them. So I know that I don't have them like 3. I think they're a very good team. And Chris knows I have a ton of respect for them. But if it's like just my ranking alone, it might look that they're lower than others, because I had them ranked a little bit lower. Not that I think that they're a bad team at all. I just think the other teams are surging and pretty solid, right? So at the end of the day, it's one of those things where if we have a full voting panel, we might see something slightly different. But for the most part, I think the difference is only in the rankings and not so much in the teams. I mean, if we're being honest, pretty much everybody's got 23 to 24 of the teams that are ranked right now in their voting. For the most part, there's some discrepancy at the end. I know, including my own team, which I appreciate the people who are not voting for me, and the ones who are. You could, like Chris, you can suck it. I'll keep deranking the Panthers. No, but I do think that the teams are pretty much set here. So tracking the performance of the top 25 in the playoffs is going to be interesting to me, because people are going to want to root for a Cinderella story, and we're going to have them. We're going to have a lot of people who are unranked, like you had Patrick talking about his team and things like that. Because we're getting at least 2 teams from the ACC. I've talked about it before, but the ACC has no top 25 representatives. Doesn't mean that they're first round exits at all.
And one of the things that kind of jumps out at me is that you have, if you include the others receiving votes category, you've got 7 teams from the American represented on this page. So, that just tells you the quality of league that the American is in our Collegiate Baseball League. May not hold true in real life, but the American is maybe the best league in our league here. It followed by right there, the Big East is not too far behind, where they have like five teams. Is that what I'm seeing here? 1, 2, 3, 4,
5. Yeah, if you include those receiving votes, yeah.
Yeah. So, that's another quality league. The Big 12 is interesting to me because they've got 3 teams there in the first 11 teams. And then, then you've got TCU. And so you got 4 out of the top 22, basically. So there's a lot of heavyweights in those 3 leagues. So I think the conference tournaments are going to be really fun to watch from that standpoint to see how these play out.
Yeah, and I brought this up in the Discord earlier in the week, and it was like one of my classic ESPN cherry picking stats things. But I brought up the fact that there are only 23 teams out of the entire league that have more than 20 wins and 23,000 points. And I think like the majority of them, like 13 of them, come from the American and the Big East.
Yeah, that's no surprise. We got to pick it up, Mark. Next year, ACC's got to get it together.
My response to that is maybe the ACC is just more parity. Maybe we have more strength towards the middle, and there's less bottom feeding going on in the ACC. How do you feel about that?
There you go.
I mentioned points. I mentioned points scored on purpose because points scored is a neutral thing, boy. No matter who we're fighting against, those points scored matter the same. If I put up 1,000 on you, 1,000 on Ash, or 1,000 on Rhode Island, it's still the same. So points scored matter. So only 23 teams that have also 20 plus wins right now and 23,000 points, considering we do the double with the league average.
Yeah.
And I'll see if I can pull it back up. If I'll find it, but the breakdown of the teams, and I'll pull it up on air for you guys. But I think it's funny because there is clearly a disparity between the way the teams are in the conferences, and I wanted to put a visual to it. So I'll pull that up in a second. I'll find my own post.
I talking about the leagues and their standing, one of the things I kind of wanted to dive into is the conference standings. And we'll just start because I got it up on right now on my screen, the SEC. So we'll start there. And the reason I wanted to dive into these is to look at, the top 8 teams in each conference makes the conference tournament, and the bottom 8 teams go to the NIT. And it all starts next scoring period. Next scoring period is an extended period where because the All-Star game, so like the scoring period will be like a week and a half or whatever. Because the actual games won't start up again until Thursday in Major League Baseball that next week. So therefore, the scoring period will be extended. To obviously, you don't want a 3-day scoring period or a 4-day scoring period. So that's the reason for that. But looking at the SEC here, one of the things I wanted to dive into is you've got, I think Texas A&M's kind of under the radar now, won several games in a row. They were kind of left for dead at one point in the season, and they have now climbed right into this. You've got 3 teams basically fighting for that last conference tournament spot in the SEC, which I find very interesting because you've got Auburn and Ole Miss are actually playing this week. So that's going to be a huge matchup in determining who gets to the conference champions or into the conference tournament. I'm not sure who A&M plays. Let me look and see who they are playing.
I think Auburn put up 0 yesterday too, by the way.
I had that one circled on my agenda as well.
Yeah, I think Auburn put up 0 yesterday, and they might be trying for the NIT. I don't know them personally. I talked about Auburn. We were had some little volleys thrown at me about Auburn, but they could be saying, you know what, I don't want to do this. I want to try for the NIT because I've got a good shot to win money there, and maybe don't want to run into juggernaut LSU. Because, my thoughts on this division are pretty clear. I think it's an LSU and Tennessee type of thing all day, and I don't have a clear winner between the two of them. And I've voted for Texas. I voted for Mississippi State at times too, so it's not like I have issue with them. But I think this is LSU and Tennessee's conference to lose.
I mean, as someone who took it on the chin from LSU and the Buttermaker, I've got to tell you, that is not a fun matchup. I don't have the data to back it up, but I feel like Tennessee might be just a little bit more inconsistent. LSU is a brutal match. So good luck. Good luck to anyone trying to take them on. I definitely like the strategy. If that's what Auburn is doing, a little subterfuge, trying to be top dog in the NIT versus an early exit.
And then I did look it up. Texas A&M is playing Alabama this week. So some implications there in fighting for that final playoff spot in the SEC. So it'll be interesting to track. Right now, Auburn, I think, has a slight lead on Ole Miss. Yeah, they're up 83-37 early in the week between Auburn and Ole Miss.
Are they both tanking it out?
Maybe so.
Did Auburn put up a 0 and Ole Miss says, I can do better. I can put up negatives? Like, this is actually...
But outside of that, this conference is pretty well chalk as far as the 1 through 7 seeding. I don't think you'll see much movement, to be honest, out of this conference. It looks very well like we're just determining the opponent for LSU in round 1 of the SEC tournament.
Yeah, because 1 to 7 are locked, right? Let me take a quick look. Yes, 1 to 7 are. Well, if Vanderbilt loses 0-2, and one of the Texas or Auburn teams goes 2-0, I guess there could be a. But for the most part, I'm thinking they're averaging almost 21,000 points. Yeah, they should probably clear league average. So we should be all right. But technically 2 spots are in play.
Well, and I'm not sure if some of these the seeding may change on some of these, because there's a couple of spots where, like, LSU and Tennessee are only 1 game apart, and likewise Texas, Kentucky, and Mississippi State are all, I guess, within a little bit of distance of each other. So those seedings could change a little bit, but it looks like the top 7 teams are pretty well locked into the tournament, into the SEC tournament. I'm not sure. Who is Vanderbilt playing?
Let's see.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you already had that. So
no, I was going to mention, actually, because I'll pull it up in a second then. But if you look here on the points against, I know that LSU is the top point getter in the region, right? But you can see that there's a discrepancy of about, a little bit under 1,000 between Tennessee and LSU, and they're only 1 win apart. So that could literally have been it could be sheer luck that it was the difference between where they are right now and the ranking they're in. So it's possible to see a little shift there. Let's see what's going on with Vanderbilt in terms of matchups. I do see that 47-37 matchup for Auburn and Ole Miss. So it does look like they're both kind of hanging out doing their thing, which is fine. Vanderbilt's facing the South Carolina Gamecocks, so that's tie. They're up 119-110 right now as we speak.
So you would think Vanderbilt could win that one.
Yeah, they're clearing league average. All Vanderbilt has to do is clear league average. It doesn't even matter who they're facing because they've got a 2-game lead. So if they can clear league average, which they are right now, league average is 107 and they're currently at 119, they'll be all right. They'll cruise.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, it doesn't behoove them to try and tank this. I mean, you got Vladimir Guerrero, you got PCA, J-Rod. I mean, this looks like, there's definitely some shaft in there as well, but you get the right guys hot, like Matt Chapman coming back off injury. That team could get scrappy. That team could be pretty good in a conference tournament.
Yeah,
I don't love the pitching other than Andrew Abbott. I'm not in love with the pitching, but they got Chris Bubich down there. That's right.
Yeah. So, the 2 teams, of course, as previously mentioned, 20-plus wins and 23,000 points or more there are just Tennessee and LSU in this region. I pulled up my own notes again, so I'm good. But yeah, those are the 2 that, and I'm not. It's kind of an arbitrary metric, but it's just the idea of, like, at this point, if you've got more than 23,000 points, you've got 20 wins, luck's on your side, and you've got a good average amount of points per week. You're figuring things out, so you're a contender. Right, if I can say out of 128 teams that there's about 23 to maybe 25 contenders to match it with our top 25, that's about reality. That's about where we are. And out of that 25, maybe about 10 to 12 have a real shot to go on a run, and the rest are just going to create some nuisances and tough matchups.
And then one last thing on the SEC here is that it looks like LSU has pretty well locked in scoring the most points for in the SEC. I don't imagine that they will be beat out this week by 800 points by Tennessee. So it looks like LSU will score the most points on the season in that conference. And the reason I bring that up is because in the SEC, they have chosen to allocate their second bid to the national tournament to the team that scores the most points that then fails to win the conference tournament. So out of this, it looks like basically LSU
is safe.
Is safe to make the national tournament. And then Tennessee, if LSU were to win the SEC tournament, it looks pretty safe to say that Tennessee would get their second bid, seeing as how they've scored 26,000, and third place is down to around 23. So.
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, you're probably looking at LSU and Tennessee as guaranteed to the dance. It's just a matter of who's getting that bye week.
Yeah, absolutely. And then let's see what conference you guys want to go to next.
Let's go to yours. Let's talk about yours. Let's have a little fun.
You just want to get it out of the way.
Yeah, in my notes here, I have that the ACC is the only conference with 0 teams of 20 wins and 23,000 points, which is why they're unsurprisingly unrepresented in the top 25. As you can see here, even though a day has passed, they still haven't cracked the 23,000 point barrier with the extra time to do so. They do have 3 20-win teams, however. Yours, Ash, Clemson at 21, and the East Tennessee State Buccaneers at 23. This is your conference, Ash, so why don't you tell me how you feel about this? How do you see this playing out?
East Tennessee State looks like they are going to easily qualify for the national tournament. The ACC also chose to go by the highest point scored team outside the field. So it looks like regardless of whether or not they win the ACC tournament, it looks like East Tennessee State would at minimum get that number 2 bid to the national tournament. It's really interesting down here to me in the 7, 8, 9 spots, fighting for those last 2 playoff spots, because you've got Campbell, Duke, and Pitt all right there together. Duke has played very well in the second half of the season, so I would anticipate that they would clear and be able to get into the tournament. Let's see who they're facing, though. I don't know who any of these teams are playing.
I do think this is a really interesting one.
Duke plays in East Tennessee State.
Yeah, they've got a tough one.
They got the toughest last matchup here out of those 3, right? Because and Campbell and Pitt, there's a 3-way tie, and right now, if the tiebreaker is put into place the way it is, Campbell has a tiebreaker over Duke. Duke has one over Pitt, which is fine. But if Campbell and Pitt go 2-0 and Duke goes 1-1, they're sitting in 9th place.
So Pitt is playing Florida State. Campbell is playing Army, and Duke is playing East Tennessee State. Now, Duke has a pretty healthy lead right now. They're up over 100 points. So that could be very interesting because Pitt has the safest road to go out of those 3 teams.
You're a nicer man than me. I would never call a 100-point lead 2 days into a matchup here a safe lead. That ain't nothing that's nothing in our league, baby. So you're a nicer man than me.
That's like 2 good pitching performances. You stack like 5 guys on a Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, to give you some perspective, Brian Bello has 69 points tonight.
Nice.
So, it's mainly just for me to say the number 69, but it's also a point of that would have eaten into 70% of that 100-point lead. So 100-point lead is not safe at any point here. And I respect what Duke has done to kind of turn around from a team that was essentially in the bottom, like 3rd of the conference, and to make it even into that we're in the last week and they're able to fight for a position. So I love that. I'm happy that they're getting a shot, but it's like the old Ric Flair thing, man. To be the man, you got to beat the man. So if you want to make it into the playoffs, you've got to take down the number 1 seed in the ACC. Knowing Duke's personality and knowing Duke, the school, probably wouldn't want it any other way. So this is kind of the way that they want it to be. Let's see what happens, because if they make it in and they're in that 8th spot, they're facing East Tennessee State back-to-back. Dude,
I'm happy for Andrew. He's one of the best shit talkers in the Discord. So he is a passionate dynasty player. So I am happy for this run. And if you filter by streak, not to feel myself too much, but if you click that streak button, you'll notice the Virginia Cavaliers, who happened to take down both Clemson and East Tennessee State in prior weeks. We are what I call a late bloomer, Ram. We didn't have the best start, but we made some questionable trades, and
questionable.
The Wahoo faithful are liking what they're seeing right now.
I think it's great that.
But as they do in basically every real life ACC sport, they are looking up at the Louisville Cardinals. So.
Oh,
this is a fun one for me, though.
I'll let you get away with that because you did beat me this season. You get away with that one.
No, but you guys, your team has won they went 2-0 like the last 6 weeks of the season so far. So
yes, sir.
Not bad.
I have not been one of the people. I know you have, Ash, has been very kind to Army and Mark. If the standings stay the way that they are right now, Army is going to be your matchup in the conference tournament in a week, right? How do you feel about that? Because, and it's not me trying to make a joke, I know the ACC folk have always been kinder to Army than me on the voting panel has, right?
I'll beat him again. I beat him once. I'll beat him again. Bring it on.
That's what I like to hear.
Bring it on.
And
Let's
then,
go.
Ash, I think if the standings stay close, you would be facing Miami, right? And
and Miami's
ranked at 1.2. right? So both
Miami's
Army and
kind of a
Miami were
dangerous
previously
team,
ranked.
I think. Yeah, I think Miami's a dangerous team. They're a team that I thought pretty highly of. I had them in my top 10 preseason. So they really fell on hard times the second half of this season. I would have to let me pull up and see. I'm not sure if they've had injuries or what they've had, but they really fell off the second half of the season.
Yeah,
Their relief pitching.
Mark was right about being a late bloomer, though, because as he mentions the streak thing, he is statistically the hottest team in the ACC going into the last week. If he wins again this week, that's a 14. That's like I don't know. I mean, this is a guy you were not in playoff position the whole time, Mark, right? And you fought your way not only back into playoff position, but you are now top 4. So
we have scrapped and clawed and begged, borrowed, and stolen to get here.
Do you remember that? Do you remember that reality show that ESPN had for a little bit, Mark? Just because of what you said, the beg, borrow, and deal.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That was actually pretty good. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
It's been like 20 years ago that they had that, but
that's right. I don't know if I was consciously making a reference to that show. I think that was.
Well, listen, I don't hear anybody use that phrase otherwise, so I think you are subconsciously referencing the show. But to the two of you, I will say, as I rag on the ACC all the time, this is easily the most open conference to get a bid to the Natty. So one of the two of you, if not both of you, better be talking to me about making the Natty in a week or two, right? You've got to be telling me that you feel like you've got some headway in this conference tournament and you've got some faith, because there's not a single ranked team right now. There were some teams that were ranked before, but that means this is anybody's game. Ball's in your court, gentlemen.
I mean, this is why
I know my team knocked off. I believe my team has beaten both of the teams ahead of me during the season. I'd have to go back and look, but so I don't know. Maybe something can happen in the conference tournament.
I'm excited. This is why I stood pat at the trade deadline. I was feeling tons upon tons of DMs, man. It was a deluge because people knew I was pretty active there early on. But yeah, I feel like we found our footing. This is my first time playing the Ottoneu format, and I was like, okay, I feel like we're hitting on all cylinders, and just didn't feel the need to go big at the deadline because I liked what I was seeing. I'm pretty sure Ash was the last team that's beaten me.
And that was pretty long time ago, because I remember when we faced off, you were on the show that week when we had our matchup. So that's been a little bit now.
Yep.
Well, let's while we're here, I'll just go across the top here. That way we don't leave anybody out or anything. We'll move to the American, which I know Chris will be joyous to see this. His FIU Panthers are atop the standings in the American. You've got Tulane down there. They're also on a 12-win streak. Down here, Memphis is, of course, 0-28 on the season.
Leader of the tanking ranking.
But
is Memphis going to get 1-1? I haven't looked at the points for rankings on the main page yet.
I don't think they're coming even close, but I got to take a look now because I didn't think they were even remotely close to making it to the league average. But let's take a look.
Well,
here.
the points for order is what determines the draft rankings. So, but the draft order, I should say, not rankings.
Let's see what's going on here with Memphis as my computer struggles to load 128 teams. But as I get that loaded up to answer that question, you can see here the patented Ram playoff tracker. The 6 teams at the top are the 20+ wins and 23,000 points each. That's competition, boys. That's one of the things where I was talking about, hey, that conference championship for any of you in the ACC is possible. The American has 6 contenders to get into the Natty and cause some trouble, right? Nobody wants to run into any of these teams. And you could even argue 7, right? Because East Carolina Pirates have also been strong. Marshall, you can see the little drop down here where they're 15-13, so they're kind of looking a little weaker. But Chris mentioned this a couple weeks ago. The seeding here is really important for this conference because at the end of the day, right, number 1 seed is facing number 8. They're facing Marshall. Number 2 in Tulane, if they can't overtake Chris, and I doubt he's having an 0-2 week, right, is facing East Carolina Pirates, who are a team that has almost 3,000 more scored and 6 more wins, and was previously ranked. So the difference between the seeding going into this conference tournament is gigantic because of who they're going to be facing in their conference tournament, and everything matters. This could be one of them where you might be wishing you had a different seeding because you're going to be looking at those matchups and saying, oh, I would have beat this guy, but I couldn't beat this guy. And Georgia Southern has been hot as hell for the second half of the season. Columbia at any time can explode with their pitching. You know, the Owls have been strong pretty much throughout the entire season. This is going to be a tough one. I'm going to look forward to watching this, if I'm being honest. As toxic as it's going to be.
Dude, Tulane, that's a team we haven't really talked about ad nauseum. You know, that's a team that's been very good and just kind of biding their time, just kind of slowly racking up the points, racking up the wins on the same 12-game heater that we are. You know, we talk a lot about JC. I think JC suffered a tough loss a couple weeks ago, but I mean, he's been as consistent as anybody. So yeah, and Georgia Southern, that was a team that got a lot of conversation early on. These are really well constructed teams. I think you're seeing a couple different strategies. You know, Georgia Southern was not a huge trading team, whereas JC, as we know, and Chris, massive traders. So I like this conference just for the variety of strategies employed. Delaware, another team. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but not a huge trading team. Kind of trusted what they had, played the hand that they were dealt, right? Like, so this is a really fascinating conference and has been very competitive all season.
What I find interesting when I look at this is the American Conference has 9 different teams that have been ranked in our top 25 at some point. To me, that's just impressive as far as the depth of the league. I mean, you've got more than half the league was ranked in our top 25 at some point. Marshall is playing Akron this week, so I feel like Marshall probably has that 8 spot locked up. I don't feel like they're going to lose to Akron. Now, if they were to lose to the league average, I'm not sure. I didn't look to see who VCU plays.
Let's see, I'm going to look them up now.
VCU has almost 1,000 more points scored than them, though, to their credit. I just want to be fair.
Yeah.
That this one win, it's a tough one because that Temple, of course, was really hitting on all cylinders beforehand. But it looks like it's not settled. There's no guarantee. But and Chris mentioned it. The Marshall was a team that beat them early on, so it's kind of funny that their only loss really came to Marshall. One of their only losses.
Well, wait. If Temple goes 2-0, can they still make it? They can't get up to that 8.
No, just
They're
VCU.
Yeah.
It's just VCU.
Yeah.
If VCU goes 2-0 and Marshall goes 1-1, there might be a tiebreaker involved here because I don't know their previous conference records if they face each other and who won. Do you have who VCU is facing, Ash, by any chance? I'm gonna see if I can pull it up. Don't worry.
I got it. Syracuse. It's Syracuse.
Okay, so they should win that one.
Yep.
So if Marshall were to lose the league average and VCU goes 2-0, I wonder who won the regular season matchup between those two teams, because that's what it would come down to is that head to head. I'll look that up real quick. Let's see.
Imagine having more points than them by 1,000 and getting knocked out by that on a tiebreaker. That would drive me nuts.
You know it's going to happen. That'll have to be. We'll do a bad beats. We'll do like a Scott Van Pelt segment.
No, I know that's coming up, and it's going to hurt me to do it, but it's a good idea because that's definitely on the horizon here, right? And you see they even have the same divisional record. So it's possible they could literally be, 16 and 14 across the board together. We'll see, but a 1-game lead over the end there is not safe. And then even if you do manage to sneak into that 8 seed, your reward is facing the top 10 ranked Florida International Panthers with 27,000 points scored.
Those two teams played in week 8. And I'm trying to pull up week 8 now. Week 8. And let me see if I can just pick VCU.
Yeah, as you put that together, looking at some other guys here, I haven't said much about Tulane because he called me a bootlicker and sent me an injured Ozuna. But I don't know if I don't really have a rooting interest as a neutral man on the podcast, but I wouldn't be terribly upset if the guy that called me a bootlicker and sent me an injured Marcell Ozuna didn't have a tremendous run out there. Marshall won, so they do have a sense of protection there as you're pulling that up there, Ash. Okay, so they really do have a 2-game lead. So they're actually, as long as they don't go 0-2 this week, they're okay.
Yeah, and I would not imagine they would do that playing Akron, but the crazy things have happened. So
I mean, Akron is probably in tank mode, right? As you said, crazy things have happened, but I don't think Akron really wants to win that. They probably want to improve their draft position at this.
Yeah, I can't imagine at 9-19 you're even looking at the NIT with 17,000 points. No.
Yeah, I would agree with that. One of the interesting things when I'm looking at the table here for this conference is that the seeding is not locked in at all. I mean, FAU, if they were to go 0-2 this week, could be tied with one of these two teams, the Delaware or East Carolina. So,
and
who
FAU
knows
is facing FAU is facing FIP. The Florida Atlantic Owls are facing the Florida International Panthers. And what is the seeding is generally set here, but that's got to be one of the more interesting matchups going on here, if not for bragging rights, because they talk trash to each other all the time, right? But
first round matchup between Georgia Southern and Columbia could be, that could be an NCAA tournament matchup.
That's what JR would call a barn burner back in the day, baby. I like this. Like that should be a fun matchup either way.
And when I sort it by points for, you've got Georgia Southern is second in the conference.
Yeah, that's the dark horse in that conference. I got to be honest, and that's no disrespect to Chris or any of those guys because we've actually talked about it. I think Georgia Southern is that kind of dark horse to not only come out of this conference and get a bid, but to do some real damage because from when they turned it on, similar to Mark's team, they have been real strong. Although Tulane is also in a similar win streak to Mark with that 12-game win streak. So there's some heat in this division that could make some real waves. And their conference tournament, I think it's almost guaranteed they're going to be sending 3 teams to the dance. So
I would agree. Yeah, this has been a powerhouse.
If not 4. I mean, think if Tulane were to sneak out and win that, they could legitimately have 4 teams in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, because you could see the Owls, the Panthers, and the Eagles all make it through, right? So you could have 4 American teams at the end of it, depending on how it plays out. And it's not like Columbia is far behind either.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's why I said that first round matchup, and obviously it could change after the games this week. That first round matchup could be really interesting between Georgia Southern and Columbia in the first round of that conference tournament. I mean, that's 2 heavyweights for an entry round, an entry game into the tournament. Yeah, and Chris says you could probably get 4. Yeah, that's what I was saying as well. I think there's a good chance that you get 4 from that league.
Now, what's interesting is that Georgia Southern, they just took injuries to 2 of their aces, though. They had Chris Sale and Spencer Schwellenbach go down. I don't think Schwellenbach's coming back from that elbow thing for maybe a month. So it'll be interesting to see how
longer. He may not. Right? Schwelly might not pitch till September because it's a fracture.
Yeah.
Well, depending how the team does, they may just shut him down.
Well, we aren't playing in our league. We're not playing ball in September, are we?
No. Oh, wait a minute. We might have some of the conference
1 week or something.
The last couple of rounds of the NCAA tournament.
Yeah. So that's what I'm looking at for Georgia Southern is the pitcher health. Now we got Imanaga back, which is a real nice. It's almost a 1-to-1 swap with Schwellenbach. Maybe not quite as good, but yeah, I feel like he's going to miss those guys, even though Ash's Braves aren't what we hoped they would be. But those are 2 stalwarts. Those are guys averaging 38 and 36 fantasy points. So
absolutely,
it'll be interesting.
Schwellenbach's been nothing short of a fantasy ace to this point, up till his injury, right? So
yeah, he's got Yamamoto, he's got Wheeler, he's got everyone's favorite David Peterson.
Hey, got to root for the boy.
Got to give Peter the shout out. Yeah. Moving over to the Big Ten, you've got a log jam of teams here fighting it out for these. All the way from 5th through 9th. I mean, you've got all these teams sitting here from 15 and 13 to 14 and 14. I mean, I don't even know how to figure this mess out. And then you've got Minnesota and Wisconsin tied at 20 and 8. So you're just trying to figure out the seeding for those, which team's going to be the 3 seed between those 2. I'm not sure who won their regular season matchup. But 1 through 4, it looks pretty locked up. Except for what I was mentioning with Wisconsin and Minnesota. But then in 5th place Maryland. Like I'd have to look and see what the odds are for these teams to make the conference tournament, because in theory, either of these 15 and 13 teams could be NIT bound, depending on who they're playing and how they fare this week.
Yeah, Maryland is really interesting to me. They're facing Indiana. So it feels like Maryland is probably in, given how bad Indiana is.
Maryland is losing to Indiana right now.
But is that
still early?
Yeah, it's Tuesday. Is that going to hold? You know, I feel like Maryland is gonna come on strong. Throughout the week here, and is Indiana really even paying attention to their lineup? Are they competing here? Are they going to try to tank and improve their draft position? You know, that's when I feel like we can count Maryland in. But
I will say though that like Indiana is in 15th place, but they in bringing up 16,000 points may sound silly, but I feel like among the 15th ranked teams in these leagues, that's maybe the most points we've seen in that kind of vicinity of a conference race. But Indiana is playing Maryland, and Notre Dame is playing Iowa. So I feel like Maryland and Notre Dame are probably pretty safe.
Yes, with the 1-game lead as well. So it looks like the fight is for 7 and 8. The Colorado Buffaloes, Mr. Cove, he's got what I like to call Yukon Husky syndrome, where he has 2,000 points scored more than the 4 teams above him in the division, but for some reason is ranked 9th because God hates us. So I shout out the Colorado Buffaloes because you can see the numbers right there. That's just unfair. He's racking in the 20,000s. You got 18, 18, 18, 18, and he's not ahead of those guys. That's not his fault. And this is a guy I remember who took over this team, I think, mid-season. So, you know, I got to shout out the people who take over this team mid-season. If he gets cursed out of the playoffs, that's just not fair. You know, I'm not really much of a sports karma guy. I know it doesn't exist, but if somebody can work up something with whatever convenient God, I think that the Colorado Buffs kind of deserve to get something going over there. Mid-season taking over an abandoned team, still trying to compete. And he's against the Cornhuskers this week.
And those are the 2 of the 3 teams tied at 14 and 14.
And the Cornhuskers are putting up a total of 4 right now.
Yeah, and they've scored 57 on the day, but on the week they've only got 4 points.
So one of their pitchers got blown the heck up.
Yeah,
yesterday must have been yesterday because I'm thinking if they're positive on the day to day, yeah. Oh, they had Yamamoto. Yeah. They must have started Yamamoto. That's not what you expect out of starting your race, but yeah.
So that's a de facto playoff game right there.
If the Bucks pull this off, they're in basically, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's a win.
I don't know. Let's see, who is Michigan playing? Neil, man, he's climbed to the ranks in that conference, because it wasn't that long ago that Michigan was down there 12th, 13th place in that league.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's fighting for a conference playoff spot. Let's see, who is Michigan facing?
He's got Minnesota.
Okay. Oh, that's actually not an easy task then.
No.
Yeah, it's the Golden Gophers, right?
Yeah, so if Michigan and Nebraska both lose this week, I wonder who won their regular season matchup. Of course, league average could play a factor in there.
The Buffs starting Kyle Freeland today against the Red Sox is bold, and the fact that he got him almost 30 is crazy. That's some getting into the playoffs ball right there.
They played week 1.
I mean, and while you look that up, just take a look at Michigan's roster. This is a very, very dangerous team for the next season and maybe 2 seasons down the road. I mean, his seniors consist of Royce Lewis, Aaron Savali, and Andrew Abbott, and a couple other throw-in, Harrison, Grant Holmes, Hayden Birdsong. I don't see a locked-in redshirt among those. Maybe redshirt Royce Lewis, but this team looks loaded for bear. He's got a freshman Hunter Goodman. Good Lord. That's a fun little team for next season.
So Michigan and Nebraska played week 1, and Nebraska wiped the slate with them. So I wonder so if Nebraska were to beat Colorado, I wonder what the tie when Michigan and Colorado play. They played in week 7. So let's go to that now. Week 7. This is fascinating to me, watching like the implications on the postseason in the last week of the season.
It's
You
playing.
had
Who's hot? Who's
Michigan
got the
beat
hot
Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
What a journey for Michigan.
Wow. So like if these teams, if Nebraska beats Colorado, and then if Michigan loses to Minnesota, I would think that the Colorado Buffaloes are looking on the outside in.
Which is the damn shame Ram was talking about after all the work put in by our new owner.
I mean that's the tough one. If you work to get almost 2,000 more than some of the people ahead of you, and you don't make the dance, that's just I mean that's how it works sometimes. But I personally just hate to see it. I'm gonna be very blunt about that. I hate to see it, especially like I said, context. And that's not a shot. Michigan, you said, is Neil, right? Ash and Neil knows I love and respect him, right? And Notre Dame is Kenny's. These are guys that I know. Shout out, by the way, to Rutgers, by the way, giving the only loss to Indiana State during that miracle week when Peter not only beat Indiana, but beat them so bad they couldn't make the league average. So that was a legendary Peter moment for the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. But putting that aside, it's going to come. One guy can't make it, and it's going to come down to Nebraska, Michigan, and Colorado. Right, and Colorado's facing Nebraska, so it's basically going to come down to Colorado and Nebraska.
Yeah,
and I think Michigan's pretty much safe because they beat Colorado, like you said, right? So Michigan probably takes that 7th spot if they can kind of hold above the league average. So then it becomes Colorado, Nebraska's winner makes the 8th seed, and they get rewarded with the Indiana State Sycamores, who again have only lost 1 week in this entire. Because they lost the league average in Peter and the Rutgers Scarlet Knights in the same week. So out of these 15 weeks, they have only lost once. They've had 1 bad week. That's a pretty consistent squad.
And I'm sure that Neil would love to be able to say that Michigan is going to the Big Ten tournament while Ohio State misses and goes to the NIT. So.
Is that the Ohio State Buckeyes down there?
It is the Ohio State.
It is
the Ohio State Buckeyes.
I did not put the. I'm not putting silly stuff like that.
Even though it's in their name, Ash. I think it's relevant to. We've got the Colorado School of Minor Ore Diggers 50 character name up there. We might as well put the Ohio State Buckeyes in all caps. That's what they want. But I think that Nebraska Colorado matchup is basically going to determine what's happening there. And right now, it looks like Colorado's got the slim lead, but nothing too concerned for them.
We've got some congestion here in the Big 12 as well. Mr. Pink on the cut line here at number 9, 14-14, 1 game behind these 2 teams. Kansas State. I still am flabbergasted that Kansas State has lost 13 games. They were one of the last teams to lose at all.
They were one of those top 10 stalwarts in the first third of the season.
They're the anti-Virginia Cavaliers, Mark.
That's right.
Because as slow as you started, as hot as they started, and they have not. They finally just won again. But going into last week, they were 13-13. They dropped from a top 10 team all the way down to 500, and they were struggling.
And they could miss the conference tournament. That's unreal. I got to see who they're playing.
You got to wonder if this is by design. Cincinnati. They're playing the Bearcats.
Oh, yeah, they're playing Cincinnati. So they've pretty much got to win there. Let's see. Who does UTSA have?
This team is going to redshirt Andy Pajes, I bet. I find this interesting to see these teams on the cusp and where they're positioned for next year.
Oh, UTSA has Illinois State.
Wow.
Guys, this could be
wow.
Mr. Pink could make the Big 12 tournament. Who is he playing? South Alabama.
If it's DVU, I'm gonna laugh so hard.
No, they're playing TCU.
Oh, that's just as bad. That's
so
not good.
He needs to go 2-0, and he's got TCU this week. Oh my God!
Sorry, Mr. Pink.
I'm not sorry to the guy who made fun of
he's
people
won
for trading
14 in a row.
He could have won more if he actually committed to trading and cared about his team.
Correct.
Those streaks are not 100% correct because they don't factor in the league average. I just want to be fair. So if you lose to the league average, you don't necessarily see that change in the streak. Like if you go 1-1, you lose to league average, it doesn't show you as losing on the streak. I just want to be clear to explain that. But he still had a pretty good performance in terms of overall, like to get back from where he was. So, but this is for me, this is real top heavy. I think one of the tough ones here is looking right there at that 5 spot is Teddy's North Central Cardinals, because going into the season, I think they were ranked almost top 10 in certain people's votings, and I thought they were going to do real well, and it just never really got off the schneid, never got off the jump, and so the Redbirds have kind of become what the Cardinals might have been, mainly because they're also Redbirds, and I respect that, but top 4 here is some real solid competition. DBU goes without saying. I mean, they're the best team in the entirety of this league, have the most points scored, right? But also you can see their fantasy points against 19,662. And there's going to be more in their obviously, like, people in their conference will have faced more because they face DBU and he is the top point scorer. But overall, 19,662 is not amongst the highest in points against faced in the league. So again, single eliminations. We'll see what happens, but they're obviously going to be the favorite to win the Natty, and as they should be, because again, undefeated, number 1 seed, most points in the league by far, easy. But Baylor, a great team. Illinois made some moves, but they're still going to compete. TCU's quietly been very strong, even though they're about 4K behind Illinois, Baylor, and 9K behind DB, which is insane. Just to talk about
pretty good. Well, going to get 3 teams from this conference in, though.
I was going to say, I think this is another one of those powerhouse conferences.
You will see 3 most likely, especially because even if, like, let's say the Redbirds don't pull off the conference win, the amount of points they've scored, Baylor, the Dallas, they're pretty much Patriots, Bears, and Redbirds are pretty secure as a 3. And I don't know if
you're.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I don't know if we'll see 4 like in the American necessarily, but we can probably confidently say you're seeing those 3 make it in some way or another, whether it be the conference tournament, get the bye, or they sneak their way in as well.
Yeah, I think that the only way they get 4 in is if TCU wins the conference tournament.
Yes, that's
because I think the top 3 are getting in. And if you were to have TCU or one of these other teams win the conference tournament, then you could have 3 teams get in. But that's really, in my opinion, the only way you're going to see that happen. It's really interesting to me how the seeding is going to take place between 5, 6. And I wish this would, like, I hate when you tab over to sort it a different way, how it like messes up.
It's fun. We've got that South Alabama TCU. We've got Ryan Pepio canceling himself out. Fun anecdote. It's a Pepio battle there.
But then, I think that we've pretty well covered how. Now, Oklahoma State, I don't know if there's a chance they could go 2-0 this week. And then if one of these other teams, UTSA or Kansas State, I'm not sure if there's a path to where Oklahoma State could get in by going 2-0. I forget who Kansas State. Kansas State was playing Cincinnati, weren't they?
Right. Yep.
I don't remember who UTSA was playing though.
I'm looking them up right now.
Oh, Illinois State, I believe. Because South Alabama has TCU.
Yep.
So Oklahoma State would need UTSA to go 0-2. They would need South Alabama to at best go 1-1, and then Oklahoma State would need to go 2-0. Which
who did we say Oklahoma State was playing?
I haven't looked because I just now noticed that they are technically within.
They're technically 2 off, and that's.
I'll pull them up here. Let's see. We got.
Oh, they've got Baylor.
Woof.
So, I don't think they're going to pull that off.
I don't think so either.
Even though they are winning at the moment.
Good. That's not a bad team. I like that Oklahoma State team. We'll see. If they can do it. Oh, they just lost Mark Leiter Jr.
It's interesting because could Dallas Baptist sandbag in the conference tournament, knowing he's going to the NCAA tournament, to help get a 4th team from the conference in?
Oh man, I think if I'm Jeremy, I want the glory.
I don't the way that he trades. I don't think he's sandbagging shit. I don't think there's a bone in his body that wants to be nice about it. He wants to win that division. He wants to go completely undefeated throughout if he can. I mean, he's one of 2 teams in the nation that could have a perfect season in the inaugural CBL. Right? You can't consider sandbagging now. You got to think about going all the way and seeing if you could really put a number on this history book.
Yeah, I think so too. I think you've got to go all in. I just don't see him. I don't see him losing in the conference tournament. I think the only way that he loses a matchup is if there's a fluke happen in the national tournament, which we've seen weeks where other teams outscored him. Pretty much there's always been somebody right there.
Yep.
Except for the last 2 weeks.
Right,
but there have been plenty of weeks throughout the season.
But it's got to be one of his own people here. I think Illinois State had done that at some point too, so that'll be interesting. Good team to watch there.
And then we're moving to a conference that's near and dear to your heart, Ram. I'll let you kind of summarize this.
God, I hate this conference. Okay, so let's talk here about. So I earlier said that the 8 spots are locked up. By the way. So
your team has scored 23,000 points and is in 7th.
I know. That's why I called it the UConn Husky syndrome when I talked about the Colorado Buffs. So I've scored 23,000 points and I'm in 7th in this conference, which is bullshit. Here's the fun fact. So 1 through 8 is locked up. The teams that are making it, Old Dominion cannot overtake Oneonta, so that is completely set. And there is no way that Oneonta can move up. So they're gonna see Rhode Island going into that first round. They've already sold off a little bit for next year. They've decided there's no dice on getting past Rhode Island. The interesting fact here, obviously, is in 5, 6, and 7, where 3 teams are tied for 20 wins, and I have 1,000 more than both of those teams. But thanks to the glory of the commissioner and who decided on suspended games, and he said, no, we can't help you out. The suspended games don't matter. When Joe Ryan went out there and gave me enough points to make sure I could beat the league average, the commissioner, whoever that guy is, says, no, there's no way. We could never do that and be fair to these baseball player guys. So UConn's tied for wins with the Iona Gales and the Cretan Blue Jays, even though if there was a God, he would be one up on them. And on way to another 2-0 week, wouldn't have to worry about his seeding, but has to worry about his seeding because of the Iona Gales and the Cretan Blue Jays. So I don't think Binghamton's going 0-2. So for the most part, I think that 1, 2, 3, 4, and 8 are locked up. So the matter here is to figure out what happens with the 5, 6, 7. If each of us go 2-0, Cretan, Iona, and myself, it will stay exactly the same. And then I will run into my friend Bryant in the playoffs. And I don't want that. And I don't think he does either, because neither of us want to run into each other in round 1 of the playoffs. But that looks to be where we're headed. And he beat me before, but we are not too far a point. I think he's got 1,000 points up on me. And it's going to be interesting. Butler, of course, again, the quiet assassins over there. You see almost 25,000 points scored probably by the end of the night, but they have lost a few times in a row. They have cooled off tremendously. And Butler has also lost to my team as well. So they are not infallible. You're going to see right now that Butler's going to be running into one of the Cretan, Iona, UConn trio, depending on how those rankings finish. And Cretan moved off a little bit for next year. Iona's still competing. DFAV is our guy. So this is sort of like the American, where you talk about the seeding here is going to determine matchups. 8-1 are set, like I said, and we all expect Rhode Island to beat Oneonta. They even moved off towards next year, so we're there. But if it's Brian and me, Butler and Iona, and Binghamton and Cretan, you've got 3 matchups that effectively could go either way, and everyone will be worried and concerned and emotional about it. So it's shaping up to be another toxic watch for a lot of people. There's a lot of loudmouths in our division, speaking for Rhode Island and myself. So I know that there are some people hate watching the conference, and I welcome it. But it's going to be hard, man. The thing is here, there's also, I think, a pretty clear shot that you'll probably see about 3 teams from the Big East make the Natty as well. But it depends on who wins the conference. Because if somebody other than Rhode Island wins the conference, Rhode Island's in automatically, right? And they might be – did we vote? I think we voted for the final the second person who's in the final to make the Natty?
I'm gonna have to look up your voting because for some reason I don't have it noted in my list here. So
that's fine. I think we voted for the person who also makes the conference tournament final to make it in. So the people who make the conference final might be automatic bids. I'm not 100% sure, but that's what I believe happened. So if you're looking at the top two teams in here, if you're looking at, let's say, Bryan and Rhode Island, they might be auto bids. But even with Butler's tailspin, they have more points scored than Bryant as well. So again, it's just so goddamn tight in this conference.
It's chaos, man.
I think you guys have a good chance of getting 3 teams again.
Yeah, that's what I think, if I'm being sincere.
Yeah, I mean, that Binghamton could sneak in. I could see one of our Bulldogs falling out. That's going to be a bloodbath. I mean, Binghamton is a nice little team. As you said, Creighton is kind of packing it in, but yeah, Ram, you might be able to take out one of the Bulldogs. I'd like to remind you that Bryant sent me our Lord and Savior Quinn Priester for Roki Sasaki earlier in the season. So be happy that happened.
There's 7 teams here that I think could win this conference tournament. It's actually pretty cool to watch. It's going to be fun to see how this bracket shakes out.
I mean, Iona could be a spoiler there. That is not a bad little team either.
I'm not sure what this is in response to, but
I'm assuming that's because the Mets were losing, and they may not be losing right now. Yes, they've tied the game, actually, thanks to Lindor and Alonso. So that might have been just for me, but I appreciate that because although I don't think you got to see it, Peter, I did shout you out on the behalf of Rutgers and your historic miracle run as to what I think was the biggest underdog win of the season so far.
Who are you playing this week, Ram?
I am up against the Hoyas.
Oh, it's okay. So you could very easily come in 5th in this in the seeding.
But it's funny because you think of the seeding as a benefit, but there's no real fun paths here where it's like, okay, if I'm in 5th, I face Binghamton. If I'm in 6th, I face Butler. If I'm in 7th, I face Bryant. I openly will say is the toughest team out of those 3, but none of that is fun. Because it's like, all right, what do you want? One ranked team, another ranked team, or another ranked team? So you're kind of
and the winner of that 4-5 matchup would then face Rhode Island more than likely in the second round.
Right. So you almost might want to think to yourself, I don't know if you're able to look it up, but if your goal is just to get to the final in our conference, then you might not want that 5th spot. You actually kind of want to cruise, sneak up to get to the conference final and then be like, all right, let's avoid the buzzsaw that is Rhode Island with 26,500 points and an undefeated season looks like on the horizon, because I do not think that they are at any threat of losing their undefeated mark this week. I'll have to double check, but I think they have an easy win ahead of them.
I'm not sure who they play.
I'll double check that. But what do you guys think? I mean, it looks like you were saying it was chaos, Mark. I know you were saying it's crazy. This in the American. We've just had our fun tormenting each other all year.
Yeah, Rhode Island plays Carleton, so
yeah. I was gonna say this looks like a cruise for Rhode Island. I mean, that's an active team. I think this is going to be
one of my most fun conference tournaments to watch. To be honest, just because there's 7 teams that could legitimately win this one. And I think that's true in the ACC as well, but it's because of different reasons. And so I think the Big East and the American are the 2 conference tournaments that I'm really looking forward to keeping track of.
We're going to see teams drop out in this conference tournament that could have made the Natty had they just played another conference. And that is the one tough thing we've talked about both in our conference. I know that Chris has talked about it in theirs, that 1 or 2 of the teams in the Big East and also in the American, had they just been in other conferences, they might have been guaranteed automatic bids to the Natty. And now we've got to fight and hope and, wish for doom on other people. And we don't know how that's going to work.
That's why you save your fab dollars. That's why you trade for those all important fab dollars, so you can find those streaming pitchers. Find those guys who are going to come in and save your day.
But those guys on the wire are going to get you negatives. That's the only bad thing. Those wires pickups are not that great.
By the way, Bello went from 69 down to 55 because of dumb auto-no scoring, but then he finished a complete game. So he ended up going complete game, allowing 2 runs. So he finished at 73, so not 69, but To the point from earlier, I should be fair to him. He finished with 73. Good for him.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
shutting
good for
out
him.
the Colorado Rockies.
I just pulled up the Pac-12 conference. And the thing that jumps out to me is that the Stanford Cardinal are 14-14 in 11th place. Like that's got to be the deepest into a league in any of these leagues that you have a team at 500 or better.
Well, isn't that your punishment for being the Cardinal instead of like a normal team name? Don't you like you can't have it all in life. You can't just start we're the Cardinal. All right, well then you're out of the playoffs. Sorry. Like that's how it works, I think. Let's take a look here. Who do we got? I know the Utah Utes have been solid. Washington Huskies, alongside me, were formerly ranked in as a solid team. So I think them and the Trojans, you've got a lot of that disparity in points here because the Oregon Ducks, a team that I used to like and support openly, right? 21,000 points in 10th place. What the hell is a 21,000 point team doing in 10th place, right? That doesn't make any sense at all. And then you've got guys, San Diego Aztecs, with 19K. This is not a shot at you, Sut, because I know we were talking earlier in the Discord and you thought I was taking shots about you drafting junior prospects. Not a shot at you directly, but you're cruising on to the playoffs there at a 7th seed with 19,000. You've got the Oregon Ducks with 21K looking like they may not make it because with the Washington State Cougars at 17 wins, there's a chance that even with the 2-0 week, they do not make the playoffs. They'd also have to jump the Sacramento State Hornets. So,
oh my gosh. And Oregon is playing USC and is down 290 to 101.
And USC is a 23,000 point scoring team.
It's interesting.
I mean, Oregon has been one of those teams. They were well within our top 25 early in the season.
Oh yeah. I think it's interesting. Oregon leaving Brandon Young, 27 points from Orioles Brandon Young in the minors for this pitching performance. They did not call him up.
To be fair, though, I wouldn't have started him against the Mets. That's not even my bias. Like, this is a guy who struggled his last time out, and if he gives you negative 30.
I mean, here's my philosophy. Here's my thing on pitching. It's like if you're not gonna start him, don't have him on your roster. Like,
well, they stream. They stream
like,
it, man, because like you pick and choose your starts. Like we don't all have the beautiful benefit of having 90 aces like DBU. Some of us got to piecemeal our. You know, this is me speaking for the fact that I think we looked at this earlier. We don't have the data, but a couple of weeks back, we looked. I have the most games played on my team than anybody because I piece together things with like relievers and starters and all that stuff. So I switch out things a lot. I get it. I mean, if you just look at the metrics, I wouldn't have started him against the Mets today. He could have easily gone negative 40. Right, and
it's true. That's the risk you got to take, though. That's the. I mean, that's.
I admit, though, yeah. I like doing
go
it.
home.
I like in a week like this, like in the playoff week, you're probably not going to see me bench anybody because the worst feeling for me, if I send you out there and you get me negative 30, I'll deal with it. If I bench you and you put up 30
on the table
in the playoffs, like I might play a little games in the regular season, but in the playoffs, I agree with you 100%, Mark. Where I'm like, listen, you're on the UConn Huskies team. It's do or die. You got to give me,
guys.
You got to give me points now, right?
Right.
Even if you're giving me 2, I'm starting it out there. So I get that. Like for the sake of the playoffs, I'm not going to look. I'm just saying, you know what? You're going out there and you're going to give me points. You give me points before you know how to do this. I want to pep talk my team. We're going to be fine. But I gotta say, I feel for Oregon. I've talked about a few teams here, but that's just, I mean, 21,038. I mean, let's have a little fun.
They could be one of the favorites in the NIT.
Yeah, humor me for a second, Ash. Go back to the ACC and organize it by points.
I hate how long sometimes it takes.
No, that's okay.
And just while that's loading, Sacramento State is playing Long Beach, so it looks like the top 8 teams are pretty well locked in.
So there would be basically the 3rd most points scored in this entire conference.
They would have been in the 4th,
right? Because you have 190, right?
Dude.
Yeah, and they're like 090.
They would have been cruising.
But the team that's 4th in their standings only has barely above 20,000 points. That's what's wild about head to head.
Yes. So I openly feel for them, man. As we go back to the pack here to see who's at the top. So
yeah, see, like Utah is 20,500, and they're in 4th place in that league.
They've gotten some votes, right? Utah used to be in top 25 a few times, right?
They've
I mean,
received votes. I don't know if they ever made it. Washington did make it, and UFC, I think, also made it at 1.2.
I don't think I've received a single top 25 vote all season, and I'm okay with that.
San Diego State, I think, was in our top 25 once as well.
Yes.
Yep, they were. USC was in there for a couple weeks. Washington, bunch of those teams.
Long Beach was the beautiful Cinderella and the Buttermaker before losing, but if I remember correctly, and I could be wrong, I think they were the team that moved a sophomore Yordan Alvarez for a senior Spencer Schwellenbach. And if that's the trade that I'm remembering correctly, that could not have worked out as badly as it could have for Long Beach. You know, I was openly talking about the fact that I thought it was a ridiculous trade to begin with. And I'm going to double check that I'm not crazy because I think that's what happened. But making that move to try to get Spencer for the end, the little stretch run, and then not being able to have him, I think is really heartbreaking. And that kind of beats the morale out of a team if we're comparing it to real life.
It's one of those that I just apply, you know, I applaud teams willing to go for it, though. I mean, at least, you know, Yordan, like, again, if that was a sophomore Yordan Alvarez, then, you know, you saw that injury and you were like, okay, I'm going to sell those next 2 presumably healthy years to get Schwellenbach. I mean, you just can't see these injuries. Like, he doesn't have a lot of violence in his delivery. That's what's crazy about the Schwellenbach.
No, and it wasn't even
injury.
his shoulder. It was like a fracture. It was like the Chris Hale thing where, like, he fractured his rib diving for a ball because he was trying to stunt on the Mets. Like, it was one of those things where these are freak injuries. Like, that wasn't something he did say. To his credit, Schwellenbach did say that he thinks that the fracture happened because he's been overexerting his pitching and he's been throwing extra hard. So he does feel like it was a little self-imposed. But at the same time, I just felt because Long Beach was a team that I was respecting all throughout. And that kind of move, now, if it worked out in the opposite where Schwellenbach continued to be a Cy Young, that might have won you your conference deal. Right. So to your credit, Mark, about your saying going for it is a good thing. That might have been the deal that pushed you over into getting a conference win. Right now, I have little reason to believe, not just because I like and respect him, that it's going to be anybody but Cal. I just feel like Cal makes the right moves here, and I think he makes the conference tournament win here look pretty simple. But UCLA's put up some really, really strong numbers. In fact, at this particular moment, has 5 more points than them. So it's UCLA, almost unfair to me to not.
That's an active. Yeah.
Yes, they are an active team. Yes.
They're one of the more. I think we analyzed several of their trades, if I'm not mistaken. They've been a pretty frequent guest in the Lunchbox analyzer machine. You know, so hats off to UCLA. I like the way they've gone about things. Cal has been very consistent. I mean, I think they've been in the top 25 pretty much all season, if I'm not mistaken, and high
Cal
up there.
Stanford this week, and has a healthy lead right now, and this is one of the few conferences that did not choose to have points be the determinant for the second team. Theirs is the highest finishing team. So if Cal finishes the job here and wins at least the league, if he at least beats the league average here, Cal will be on the way to the Natty because they will have locked up the regular season title.
Now, this is another conference as well, by the way, that I just expect to have at least 3 teams come through as well, right? Because even if Cal does cruise to the Natty or UCLA cruises to the conference championship or UCLA does that, Cal's getting in too. And you might see Long Beach State, just based on the strength of their points, make it in as well. So you might see 3 teams from this conference as well kind of find their way. And 8 slots we have to fill, right? So
yeah.
Right, so 8 slots come from those other bids. So you might see, you might see 2 from the American. You'll probably see 1 from here. You'll probably see 1 from the Big East as well, where you get another team going in. So that's 4 out of that 8. So there's still going to be 4 floating spots for that Natty. And granted, we haven't looked at we're still 2 more conferences, right?
You might see one.
Just one more because we started with the SEC. Now we're going
right
to the West Coast Conference.
Yeah.
And then you've got 2 teams tied at the top to see who's going to be the 1 seed in the conference tournament. Let's see
they've got the 5, 6, 7. That 5, 6, 7 syndrome.
That Grand Canyon or Pepperdine, those teams have been pretty hot lately. We may be able to see one of them sneak in, but probably not. But potentially we get 3 out
Santa
of this
Clara
one.
and Northern Colorado get through, I'm sure. Look
Yeah.
at the look at that 5-6-7, by the way. So identical records, and look at the disparity in points.
Oh my gosh,
Almost
it's
nothing.
close.
Almost nothing between the Marymount Lions, the Barton College Bulldogs, and Cal State. So that's Tony, that's Kevin, and that's JT. Right? Those are all active guys in the Discord,
Yep.
Ash, if I
Yeah.
Yeah,
remember correctly.
JT mid-season takeover as well. He's really put a lot of work into that Lions team. So
Yeah,
shout
And
out.
Kevin took over Barton College just before the start of the season.
I was gonna say I should be. I've said enough nice things about JT, so he can deal. But I'll give Kevin credit because he did kind of take over Barton after not drafting that team, because he didn't draft Barton, if I remember correctly. He just took it over and started making moves.
Yeah, that's correct.
Right. Tony is a perennial competitor on anything that he takes out, so of course he's sitting there and he's going to be in that playoff run. We're going to see some interesting matchups here based on Cal State, Barton, and the Marymount Lions, how they finished this last week. Because if you can see here, Barton's lost a few games, so they could have been ahead. Pepperdine lost recently, which is why I have no idea why they're in the top 25. No disrespect to Pepperdine, but you shouldn't break into the top 25 after a losing performance. That being said, Santa Clara is another team with, you see, almost 26,000 points there. Northern Colorado Bears have been well, and also to Mark's credit of a point, very aggressive at the trade deadline. Very aggressive, tried to add on some seniors, tried to add on some bullets to make sure they have a run. So I have a lot of faith in the Northern Colorado Bears doing some damage because they sacrificed their future to make that happen. And, you want to believe that that's going to work out. But the funny thing is that you can see that 8 seed is basically going to be a bye week for the Northern Colorado Bears.
Yeah, I was looking at this. I'm like, you got 2 12 and 16 teams battling it out to see who's going to make the conference tournament. And then we were just on the pack, and you had the 11th place team in that conference was 500. So this doesn't look great here, having 2 sub 500 teams battling for the playoff.
Yeah, and I mean, you see here, it's a tough one too, because if you go 12 and 16, you probably don't expect to make your playoffs. And then on top of that, again, you're getting rewarded with a top 5 team with almost 27,000 points of record that added players, the Northern Colorado Bears. I mean, I hate to say it, but it seems like a bye week for the Northern Colorado Bears. Now, granted, they are tied with wins for the Santa Clara Broncos. So there is a chance that they don't get that 1 seed, right?
Yeah.
Who are the Bears and the Broncos facing? Because that one's now an interesting one for me.
Northern Colorado has San Diego.
So there's their playoff preview.
Well, they could be knocking San Diego out of the playoff.
Right, and if Wayne State wins...
well, who does Wayne State have? I've got to know that now.
Santa Clara. I got Santa Clara loading here.
Okay.
Wayne State has Canyon. Portland.
Wow, Santa Clara plays Grand Canyon. 2-3. That's pretty hot.
Yeah, that's going to be tough.
So based on that, it looks like the Bears might keep that 1 seed. So that is fair. You said Wayne State is facing Portland?
Yeah.
So there's a chance that Wayne State sneaks into the 8th seed and becomes the first round bye for the Northern Colorado Bears.
We might see an honor. I don't know, man. We might see San Diego and Wayne State try to tank it out and just slide into the NIT, try to make some cash by just benching their pitchers. This could be some real shenanigans in the West Coast.
They can't both miss the playoffs because I don't think Portland's making it in. So one of them's got to.
That's what I'm saying is, are they going to try to? Are they both going to try the subterfuge and try to outbench each other in their respective matchups? People are asking.
I want to see what's up with Cal, Barton, and the Marymount Lions, because that is going to obviously. So 5 and 4 would be, if it stays the same. Pepperdine faces Cal State. Barton would face Grand Canyon, and the Lions would face the Broncos at this point. So of those 3
that'd
ties,
be a rough start.
Yeah, I was going to say, of the 3 tied teams, you just don't want to be 7th. You do not want to be 7th. So you're looking to see if you can sneak ahead. It would be a very unfair punishment for those guys to end up with 7 there, with the difference of what is it, 150 points between the Lions and the Dogs, and then about 500 between the Titans and the Bulldogs. It's not even
And
that
Barton
much.
Barton is playing Gonzaga. Let's
they're
see.
actually getting beaten. They're down 60 points to Gonzaga right now.
Loyola Marymount is playing Pepperdine. And who's the other one? Fullerton.
So the Lions have got kind of a playoff preview type of matchup there against Pepperdine. That's tough because they can still technically overtake Grand Canyon. So it's
and Fullerton has Colorado School of Mines.
So
and shout out to Joe, the owner of Colorado School of the Mines, for creating the BDS logos and graphic.
I love his school name too. I always make fun of it because every time he posts, I'm like, hey, do you call the people who aren't athletes on your school minors? Because I mean, if the athletes are the ore diggers, are the regular students just minors? Like, do you just have? But the Cal State facing the School of Mines ore diggers, right? Looks like they have the easiest cruising way to get that like 20th win and be able to secure their standing. So they might be on face-to-face Pepperdine. So Barton lost last week. So Barton and the Marymount Lions are going to have the tough one. If JT can just sneak over a 2-0 or a 1-1 or something like that, he can avoid that first round Santa Clara matchup that would be a pain for anybody in this conference.
I got to look at the bottom here. Like, these bottom two teams have scored 16,000 points. We've seen several leagues where that kind of point total would have gotten you up into like 10th or 11th in your conference. So, I mean, even though these teams have poor records, their point totals are deserving of a little bit better record, at least.
Yeah, they're running into some buzzsaws at the top. You know, I mean, looks like the Colorado Bears and the Broncos have lost one divisional game each.
Yeah.
Right. So that's hard because that's just the amount of points is just hard to get by, man.
Yeah. Wrong week, wrong time.
Just trying to bring up the total point standings from the season here, so we can kind of look at that real quick.
And I also, when you pull that up, I want to look at the points against standings because I do, that ties into what we were talking about. That some of these teams are just running into people on the wrong weeks, as Mark was just saying. Wrong place, wrong time. I think Oregon might be the biggest sufferer of that just based on what we were looking at, because that just sucks that you're over 20,000 in points and you might not even make the playoffs. The only thing that makes sense for is that maybe I'll slide a few bucks down and say that's my NIT guy, because if they face that, they've got a real good shot.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to look at here on the points for, let's see here. So you got Memphis is definitely going to have the number one overall pick.
It looks like they're going to lose again too, by the way, to Rice this week. So it seems like they have locked up the 1-1, like you were saying.
Yeah, so I was just kind of looking to see who were the top pickers, at this point in time. Are any of these close to where somebody could jump somebody? Like this Iowa-Villanova battle? I mean,
Villanova's playing. They're playing a good team. I can't remember who it was out of that Big East, but they're playing one of the top teams. I feel
the only thing that matters is points for in that.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're looking to see like who's going to draft in a more optimal spot. In NC State and Arizona. So like if you're Arizona, you want to score more or score less points than NC State this week.
You want to bench some pitchers.
That's crazy here. Look, you see even at those two alone, right? 7,000, that's 14,000 together, right? You add up the bottom two, that's 4 and 3 is like 7. Another 5 is 17. Scroll up real quick just to DBU.
Oh, to DBU, they're like 31,000.
No, well, this is the halfway because
the halfway.
Yeah, so you see they're about 16,000 points, right? You just looked at Iowa and was it Nova there or something down there? And if you combine their points for the season, you're still not ahead of DBU. You are ahead of Baylor, but you're not ahead of DBU, which is just to say that people like, this is why conference favorite. I mean, that is absolutely bonkers in terms of those numbers here.
I thought it showed points.
Well, some of these teams
I was looking for points against, but I guess I have to go in the other tab for that.
if you're starting injured guys, like if you've already phoned it in, that explains some the lack of points. You know what I mean? Like I was starting an injured Reese Hoskins and Tyler Fitzgerald, who's been demoted to the minors. So.
Look at this. Most points against UCSB has had the most points scored against them at 21,000.
Right, just looking that off the screen, right? Marshall, Vanderbilt, Baylor, some good teams.
Yeah.
That are some of the most like unluckiest when it comes down to this, right?
Yeah.
12, 15, Kansas. And
Ty, he's had the most. He's had one of the most points scored against him.
Yeah, Ty, I don't know if you're listening, but don't feel bad, buddy. 20,000 there, and yeah, some other teams that make sense. Old Dominion in the Big East has run into some big teams. Baylor, of course, has run into some big teams as well, including DBU.
Old Dominion, yeah, that's surprising. I'm surprised to see that win-loss total on Old Dominion. That was a pretty good team.
They started off really hot, but honestly what it was, and I said this out loud without trying to be disrespectful, is that they just didn't maintain their team. They didn't make any attempts to trade. They didn't make any attempts to do the waiver wire, and I'm fine with you saying you're not going to trade if you do the waiver, but you got to do one or the other, right?
Yeah.
You can't just sit and do nothing. That's what Butler did well, is that even though they didn't work any of the trade stuff, they were one of the guys that were making it happen in terms of transactions. And Old Dominion, I think, made like
claims and drops. He made a couple on there, but
those are
June. That's a month ago.
July.
Oh, okay, I see. Like little. Okay,
I had a couple drops, but yeah,
trades, no trades.
There's not much going on there. Just little changes to the lineups, and that's it. That's not really doing anything much. Again, it's not an attack. It's just the idea of like you started hot enough that you could have easily made that 8th seed. Oneonta was given up towards the end too. You could have made that 8th seed with a few more adjustments had you worked the market a little bit. So for me, I get frustrated with stuff like that because I'm big on the idea of make it to the dance and see what happens. And so,
or just have a plan. You know what I mean? Like, or set up for next season. Like,
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Have a plan and execute.
Like, I'm not mad at Oneonta saying, look, take all my seniors and give me juniors, right? Because you're like, all right, my move is next year. Cool. I'm fine with that. I respect that, right? Especially knowing that you're about to run into Rhode Island. Not going to be fun. Understood. But, like, inactivity, just sitting there, like, I'm one of those guys that I've talked about this a lot on all sides of fantasy. The middle of the pack, for me, drives me insane. Aim for the top, or find a way to rebuild properly. If you're retooling because you have a plan for next year and that's what leaves you in the middle, I'm not going to get on your ass. But if you're just kind of like, yeah, we're like 500, we didn't make any moves, you're doing yourself a disservice unless you're rich enough to just blow all the money on the fantasy leagues that you want. But you're doing yourself a disservice. Have a little fun. If you want to compete all the time, fine. Take a league where you're going to rebuild and rip it apart and take all these prospects that are netting you, apparently huge major leaguers in our league here. But that's another conversation. As if I get started on Cole Reagans again, I'm going to blow a freaking gasket. But I don't know if you were going to cut it short, Ash, but there was some other stuff on that screen that I would have wanted to bother you about.
Which one? Which screen?
The points against one, I was going to go further down for a little bit, but also original season stats one, because there's a ton of interesting data on there in terms of the way that the year has gone. So if we go to, this is the points against one.
Yeah, this is here. This is points.
There we go. Right? So keep scrolling down a little bit.
Delaware is an interesting case.
Yeah, Delaware's a good tough team there. This is one of the things I was saying, that we can go down. We've gone down about 30 teams ish now, and we still haven't seen DBU. And so while they have, where is?
Oh wow. Where are they?
Did we just miss them? We must have missed them, like, visually, right? Because they can't be this far down.
Well, you don't. Well, I guess
no, they're not this far down.
I'll just do control. Dallas Baptist right there, but okay, I hate it. It doesn't give you a numerical rank.
No, it's fine, but like you can
19,684.
But you see, there's a lot. Like even my team, you can see is above them. Like I have faced more adversity in that regard. And again, to certain people in their division, like Baylor, for example, because they are facing the top ranked points team, it's obviously a little harder because their points against is going to be higher, right? But you can see there's a good amount of teams that have faced more adversity. And I just say that because yes, they have the most points scored. And yes, it is a huge anomaly towards the league, but they haven't always faced the top team every week, and that's when the playoffs start to get tough. Binghamton is another one there with the tough schedule in there.
Yeah.
Where do you guys fall on these, by the way?
I was kind of middle of the pack.
It's about what you would hope for, right?
Let's see. I think I was roughly middle of the pack as well. I think I was somewhere in the
we'll just look
18. Let's see.
I don't know what this is.
No, it's going to bring you all the way down. You're going to have to start from the top.
Let's put this in.
It's okay. We can start from the. We can also scroll up and see who the luckiest teams are too if you go all the way to the bottom. So, and we'll work from there.
Oh, Virginia's second from the bottom.
Oh, Mark! Oh no, Mark! No. Mark. Second luckiest in the entire 128
There
teams.
you go. There you go. I said it was 18. I knew it was at an 18 in front of it. I didn't know it was that low.
So Mark is the second luckiest. Duke is the fourth luckiest.
Look at Texas. He's on the top 25.
So Texas has actually been deranked for me personally because of that, where I sit there and I'm like, that's kind of been a calm. You're losing games. You've lost a few, and you haven't had it that rough.
I mean, if you really want to get exasperated, look at Rhode Island carrying a 28.
Oh, yeah, no, we know. We know. We've talked about this before. Okay. Yeah, too. That's why I also wanted to go down and talk about the fact that Rhode Island's faced I think I verbatim said this for 3 weeks.
How did they only face 18,000 points in your league? Everybody had their worst week when they played Rhode Island.
There was a 3-week period where I was posting in it, and I'm like, by the way, this is another week that if I face Rhode Island, I would have won. And you know what's going to happen when I face Rhode Island? My team's going to pitch it's just going to suck. I know it. I know because I know how this works. But it used to drive me nuts because I was like 3 weeks in a row. I'm like, by the way, would have beat Rhode Island again this week. Not facing him, putting up 1,100 against the goddamn St. Johnny's or something. And I'm like, I don't need it then. I need it against Rhode Island. But I bring this up. So, so Rhode Island, one of the, I think, 10 luckiest teams in the league. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. So they are the, is my team even? All right, Peter, you know what? Have a little fun. You know what else is on this screenshot here? Let's go up another 5 teams or so from the Rhode Island. And the Rutgers Scarlet Knights with a 9-19 record as one of the 15 luckiest teams in the league. There are 100+ teams that have faced a harder schedule than you, Peter. And you're in the single-digit win column. You're around the North Carolina Tar Heels who are 1-27. The Aztecs, by the way, there you can see also one of the luckier teams in the league, 18-10, but they face only 18-665. Rather be lucky than good. Believe me, I know it.
That's what I'm saying.
But you can see some ranked teams on here. TCU, Long Beach. Now, they're not in the bottom 10 or anything, but these guys have had a little bit easier of a path. I haven't seen the Louisville Cardinals yet, so Ash might have been right. He might be in the middle of the pack.
Yeah,
look at the distance between Santa Clara's points for and their points against. I mean, have we seen? I don't know if there's a way to do that math. That's like 7,000 delta there.
They're one of the stronger teams in the league and have faced a relatively calmer schedule. Same with Army, Clemson, of course, because people in the ACC. I mean, the ACC would have had to have the least points against generally because of what I was talking about before. I didn't know it'd be towards you, Mark. That wasn't even a shot towards you until I saw it. That was kind of funny. The Cornhuskers, by the way, if they end up making the playoffs,
that's going to be wild.
The Cornhuskers would be statistically the luckiest team in the league and may make the playoffs solely off that. And Duke may also benefit from something of that nature, too. So we've got some interesting names here. I'm going to bring this up again when we do the playoff show, because at that point, I'm going to be real curious, to see what happens. If the luckiest teams in the league made the playoffs, who benefited? Cornhuskers get an award. They might have to eat corn the long way or something, but we got to figure out some kind of award for them, because luckiest team in the league. Peter's right. You'd rather be lucky than good. I'll tell you that much.
Hey,
but
Know your opponent. Play the opponent, not the game. That's what I say.
If you got a few minutes, Ash, still too, if you want to talk, it's okay. If
No,
you
go
don't.
ahead. Go ahead.
Go all the way back up, and let's head back over to the combined one because there was a ton of data on that I thought was interesting, and I think this is fun to talk about. I think it was results, right, or something, or season stats. Season stats. That's where you're at. Yeah. There's a whole bunch of data on there about some other stuff. Like you can see games played and things like that too. Because I do think, if not the most, I'm around like the most games played. And you can also see the least games played. But you might see some guys like DBU on there because he doesn't even use relievers. He basically only uses starters. So it's kind of a crazy thing for me to see like the disparity in strategy as we were talking about in some of the stuff there. I know it'll load in a second. We're pushing Fantrax to its poor limits over here with the 128 team league.
Well,
okay.
And for some reason my internet's acting up a little bit. So, all right, here we go.
There we go.
All right, so let's do games played, the GP right there, and let's take a look here.
Well, I think there's actually a stat for that, like, because I hate when you sort it and then you got to like leave and come back to get the order in the correct way. Games played. I thought there was its own column. Maybe not.
No, I think it's only at the top there. That's why I was.
All right.
It's all right. We got to deal with the.
Yeah. So games played.
Yeah. So now I'm top 5 now, right? And you can see here. So, Mr. Pink.
Well, these are all playoff.
Yeah. Pretty much playoff bound
teams.
Shout out to Bryce. I think part of the reason that we like each other on Illinois State is that we essentially employ the same strategies in more than one league, by the way, because we're in ABA, which is also a league for the Best Damn Sports Discord, and we are constant competition in there as well. But we have the same strategies. We apply a lot of people. So you see there, he's got the most games played. I'm 5th. And you can see Cal, another guy, plays the same way. But to your point, Mark, every single one of these teams is a playoff team, I think.
Yeah, maybe is Minnesota? I mean, Minnesota might be a tweener. I don't remember, but they might be. Yeah, all the other teams are playoff teams for sure.
Guys, I just have to interject with something because I just happened to check a score while we were talking here, and Yuri Perez with another outing today that. Looking pretty good. 2 outings in a row, 8 strikeouts in 5 innings pitched, only 1 run allowed. So Yuri Perez is back, boys.
I'll tell you something for the betting folk out there. The underdogs for the day were the Marlins and the Brewers, and Mizorowski went out there and struck out 12, and Yuri went out there and ate up the Reds. So, don't be surprised if some of these young guns start to do some damage out there. Yuri is a guy that I've talked about it with you, Ash. I firmly criminally underrated. People saw the injury and they thought he might be long gone, but they forgot that a year before they were talking about this guy the way they were talking about Mizorowski now, right? So it's one of those things where Yuri is special, and the Marlins do have a penchant of once in a while deciding to bring out a very, very special pitcher. Sandy Alcantara, the shine is off of him, but he's still ace level if he can get it together.
He's been better. He's been better the last month, but the Marlins are a great pitching organization, just top to bottom. They know what they're doing. It's like
they just won't pay their guys, but they develop well too.
East, they don't. Yeah.
I was thinking about this though the other day. If Sandy can kind of get it back together, they may not trade him after all. Like there was a lot of speculation that he might be shipped off at the deadline to a contender. But if you look at their rotation next year, they could have Sandy, Yuri. Ed Cab has pitched really well lately.
Oh man,
Max Mayer has pitched well before the injury, right?
If Ryan Weathers comes back, I mean that's your 5th starter. Like,
and you've got guys in the wings that you've been developing, and they have now won. I think 11. I think they've won 11 in a row on the road now. By the way, 11
I would not count them out of the wild card. I mean, they're
actually streaking right now.
Don't count them out of the wild card. 7 back at the All-Star break. Like, weirder things have happened.
And their bats are coming together. They've got Kyle Stowers. They've got Augustine Ramirez. Who am I forgetting?
Jesus Sanchez.
Xavier Edwards has been okay. He's not going to win you games, but he's not going to hurt you too bad either.
I'd like to see a little bit more pop out of Connor Norby, but he's been okay. Like, he's been a decent little piece. And
they made out good with those trades with the Orioles, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And what's his name? Augustin Ramirez came in. He's been a relatively strong dynasty catcher performing. There's some guys that can figure some things out.
Don't forget about Virginia Cavalier backup catcher Liam Hicks.
Liam Hicks was a Rule 5 pick, wasn't he?
I think I
and
think
he's
so.
had a really good year.
Yeah, dude. I'm banking. I've got a freshman Liam Hicks ready to trade next season.
Ready to trade.
Well, he's already the clock is ticking. He's already practically a sophomore, Mark. So,
well,
yeah, exactly.
Clock
Jesus Sanchez has had a good year.
Sanchez has been good. Mervis was good for about a week and a half, and then they sent him back down.
Classic Mervis. Actually.
I'm not a Mervis maniac.
Didn't we get on the show and we looked at each other and we said this isn't going to last? We said immediately this isn't going to last, and about 2 weeks later, it didn't last.
Cubs fans everywhere been tortured by him. So
standard Mervis.
Exactly.
Light tower power, but then the league remembers that he swings at everything.
Yep. Torture chamber.
Oh, man.
Sorry, Ram, to hijack what you were talking about.
No, we're good. I'll cycle you back. Or can you click the GP again, and it'll show you the least most.
Memphis.
So you've got some guys. Memphis makes a lot of sense, right?
I wonder where the first contender is.
And you can see, that's what I want to see. I'm pretty sure it's going to be. So the Crimson Tide with some,
they're
good
the
numbers
first team that's going to be like a conference tournament team
that actually has the least games played. And I'm assuming the DBU is in the bottom half rather than the top half, just because of the fact that I see the Rams are in there. There's the Rhode Island Rams, similar strategy.
No, I think we passed DBU. They're up in that. Did we pass them? Are we looking at games played? I think we passed them.
Yeah. Did we pass them?
I think so.
Yeah, they are right here, 1,743.
And you can see, and look at the ranked teams around that little circle. They found the sweet spot, by the way. Right, like the Panthers are there, the Broncos are there, the Bears are there, Penn State, Nittany Lions, the Tigers. That looks to
Bears,
be the sweet spot,
Bears.
Right? Lions and Tigers and Bears. Oh my, they're all in that little sweet spot there. But games played is a big in terms of where like the strategies come into play. And if you go down further behind,
they're down. DBU has one of the highest games played.
That's what I was saying.
So they're higher, yeah. So these guys are actually they are near the top. All these contenders here are also right there too. So they've been able to get good level players. So I respect that. I was thinking DBU might be lower than that. I wanted to see for my own sake, but you see all the contenders are right about there. Meanwhile, I've got to throw out Daysbel Hernandez and the supposedly guilty Luis Ortiz, but. If we pull down just a little bit further, I think it's the hitting stats there. You can see the most points for hitting right there. It's already organized, I think, right? Yeah,
it is.
So the Redbirds, then the Panthers kind of dominating that there. Look at the Oregon Ducks again, by the way, top 6 in hitting and may not make the playoffs. Is kind of like
they might be the favorite to win the NIT.
Something happened there. I feel like injuries, like. There's a story in the Oregon Ducks, man. That's really wild.
I think so. I firmly think so. And that's you can see the top teams in hitting there. Right. We see some makes sense, right? Northern Colorado, Dallas, Butler, some guys that you would expect. Utah surprisingly strong there on the hitting side. So these guys putting together good hitting performances overall. And Rhode Island top 20 as well.
I think it's interesting to look at that strikeouts category. Given this is the first year I've ever had that
negative strikeout
that negative penalty. Like I said, this is the first auto format I've ever played, and it took me a couple weeks to get used to it. And sometimes I'm on Discord asserting that there is no strikeout penalty, and Ash has to remind me that there is.
There is. You can see and here's the pitching stuff on the other side. You can see Georgia right up there as to why people might think there's such a demon going into this tournament, even in the conference one, right? 4th most in pitching. LSU, I ranked them so high because of that too, that pitching number. And Dallas Baptist with almost 10,000 from pitching alone. I mean, that's just the bevy of aces that they have running out there. But these are all – what's interesting is that here's what's funny to me and why I think pitching gets so much coverage in this league, Ash, right? Mm-hmm. We're seeing 19 teams on the screen right now. Every single one of these teams is ranked, right? Go up to hitting, and the top 19 teams are not all ranked. See?
Yeah.
You got Texas A&M.
See? You can see it. Oregon. You can see Utah, Creighton, Washington, Cal State, Kansas, right? So it's one of those things where this is why people talk about, they say, okay, and you can see the numbers from hitting. Illinois State leads in hitting with 6,700 from hitting. Dallas Baptist has almost 10,000 from pitching. When we hear the narrative about why this is a pitching league, that's where that comes in, because the top hitting team has less than 7,000. He's knocking on the door 10,000 from pitching, and every single one of these.
I do think that like it's not necessarily. There is a little bit of a difference, though, in that you can't just throw any pitchers out there.
Oh, like, absolutely.
If you look at Dallas Baptist, he's got all aces.
Right. And you talked about that like mid-level pitching isn't going to do it in this league, right? Like if you send out a whole bunch of mid-level guys, you're going to lose.
Just avoiding negative outings goes a long way.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the guys that are showing up and going deep in the games, getting those, QA threes, getting strikeouts.
Like I would venture to guess, if you look at these rosters, they're not going to have a bunch of third and fourth starters. They're going to have a bunch of ones and twos.
1,000. He's got 400. He's almost got 500 quality starts.
Yeah,
insane. But I know. I
mean, yeah. LSU's another. I would say LSU
sorted by quality starts.
Now LSU's invested a little bit more in the reliever strategy, which I'm blown away that you can
664 saves, buddy.
Yeah,
that's pretty psychotic. I love it, actually. And Chris has 760.
760. That's what I'm saying. It's like, how you're doing this without relievers. Now, I like this, the middle reliever strategy from Mr. Pink and Pepperdine. That's viable. I mean, West Virginia maybe.
Hey, you found me as well there too. That's one of my
saves and holds are actually a sneaky way of getting points. Because if you can get your relievers to give you 15 points from just a single reliever a night, that adds up.
I love the fact that I've got I have almost 500 holds, but I have 20 complete games. Where the hell did I get 20 complete games from? I don't know.
Where's anybody getting complete games from?
Like, who do I have that threw 20? How am I tied for the league in complete games? Who do I have? What am I doing?
Seriously, well, I mean, so some of these, you guys are probably doubling over the same, like, copies.
We have the same starters, but who the hell's playing?
Who is getting?
It's not 20 complete games. It's 20 points from complete games.
Oh, okay. I have that. I got that David Peterson. I got that David Peterson complete game. That saved my life. That's one of them.
Yeah.
But it's like 4 points for complete game, right? So we have 5 complete games. That's funny.
That makes more sense. That makes
because if you look at the home runs have
allowed.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are the teams that have had the most negative points from home runs.
So that means we've gotten 500 points. Like when you were in the hold category, you had 600 points from saves for some people, 500 for holds. I mean, that right there is why. Yeah, you can see even you, Ash, you're pretty much up there. You've gotten 576 from saves there. That's pretty good. Chris getting 760. I went the hold way, as Mark was saying, because I've got top 5 there and points from. I've gotten almost 500 points from holds because I'm okay with getting middle relievers. And
if you're on it, I mean, if you're on the waiver wire and you're picking up those guys who are slotting into 6th, 7th, 8th innings, man, that's just you're an attentive baseball. It's like
I got to do it because it's
viable. It's very viable.
I firmly believe in not trading for relievers. I firmly believe I can find them on the waiver wire and slot them in, and I'll figure it out.
Yeah. And trade those guys. Trade your senior relievers.
Was this the hitting or overall points there?
No, this was pitching still.
Yeah. That's good. I just wanted to go through some of those numbers because for anyone who's watching, I think it's interesting to just see that stuff. Tulane has allowed the most points in earned runs. Yeah. Oregon Ducks, by the way, that might be your answer there, Mark.
Only 4,000 points from pitching.
So they could have swapped a hitter for a pitcher and might have been able to figure something out.
That's funny. I mean, you look at DBU there, though. It's funny how, like, he's willing to sacrifice those earned runs wasn't he third in earned runs?
Yeah,
well, and then look at this though, Ram. You talk about power and suppressing.
This is the line that I said in the beginning. I said that in the
home
beginning.
Home run points, DBU number 2.
I think it's like CBL show 1. I said this league is going to be about power and suppressing power.
And that spells it out right there.
The thing about that, Mark, to your point, because I was going to mention my own point, the earned runs he's fine with, the home runs he doesn't want to allow. Right? So it's like you can give up a run here or there, but as long as he's hitting home runs, and he's got a ton of home runs in his lineups. And I think, DBU is what, 3rd in earned runs. And you see, he's not even on the page for the home run negatives, right? 100%. He knew right away, and I wish I could have built my team different because I knew it from the beginning. This league was going to be about power and suppressing power. And you see Illinois State, by the way, to his credit, really amazing work because he's at the top of the balance of all these categories. He's at like the top of pitching and hitting, and he's done such a great job building his team, and he's got stuff for the future as well. He's just looking up at the juggernaut of juggernauts, Dr. DBU. But no matter what he says publicly, no matter what he says to be nice, and he made some moves, he's still sitting there at home thinking, I wish I could take him out. He is hoping for it.
Well, the top of this category, though, is not necessarily good because that's the most minus.
No, well, that's like in terms of overall pitching, though, I think he's he's like.
It's going to be the sickest
he's
content.
Not as far up there as
everybody wants to be the guy who takes him out. So if it happens,
he's 22nd in points on pitching.
I thought he was higher up actually. So that's my bad. Still think he's good at what he's doing. But go on, Mark.
I'm saying everybody's hoping to catch DBU and Rhode Island on those bad weeks. You know what I mean? Everyone's just kind of foaming at the mouth, trying to get saving their fab, waiting for that guy who's about to pop off on the waiver wire and slot him in for the playoffs. So
I hate the ground into double play thing, and I'm glad I'm up there because I feel like I watch like my players ground into double plays for fun. Like they're like, hey, what do you want us to do today, coach? Like apparently hit a ball right into the ground and just kill some worms and ground into double plays. I see that minus so many times. I'm like, what the heck? I want to jettison some of my players. It's so annoying. Also, because you were talking about like the strikeout penalty, Mark. I don't usually have this penalty, so for me, I look on it. I'm like, why am I negative 20? And I'm like, Austin Riley decided to ground into 4 double plays today for fun. Thanks, you jackass.
It's all about lift, man. Lift and loft, dude. It's all that. It's like I realize I'm like, okay, I've got to go for guys who are lifting the ball. You know what I mean? I was all about Spencer Steer there for a while because he was getting stolen bases out of the first base slot. I'm like, oh, that's a cheat code. And it managed just to suck the first 2 months of the season. I sold him for like $70, and it's like, okay, because he's grounding into double plays, like 3 of them a game. Brutal.
Just leading in points from walks there. Congrats. He's conquered the market on walks, which is good. It's not bad. They're points. They're positive points.
They're not GIDPs.
No, apparently not, because I hate that bullshit. God, it's fair. By the way, I'm not complaining about the scoring. It's just annoying because like I just gotta deal with it. I can't do anything about it.
Yeah. It was a lot to get used to. I was like, okay, this could be tough sledding, and I've got to get used to this scoring system. But man, and waiting, Cedon Rafaela finally figured it out.
SH pitching and made a pitching league crazy. I know. I love that. I also like doing this because of the fact that Ash gets really mad every time I say it's a pitching league because he just doesn't agree. So I love going on a limb to be like, this is only about pitching, and just for him to be like, no, it's not. It's about hitting. And it's like, no, it's because the truth of the matter is
about power
and suppressing power, which I get to take credit for because I said that early on. But it was just fun to look at this data because, like, for me, as somebody who this league is just ridiculous, I like looking at things like this. Yeah. And now I've got an NIT guy to root for. I've got to root for the Oregon Ducks if they don't make the playoffs now. So I don't know who Oregon's owner is, but you've got me in your corner rooting for you.
I think that the reason I get frustrated with it, though, is because I think that there's a misnomer that you can make up for it with volume, and you cannot. You have to have aces.
Yeah,
if you have aces, you will be able to. What's that?
I said, or you need a lot of holds. You need a lot of holds to survive.
No, I do think Sage's holds are important.
Yes, I'm a big I couldn't get the ace because I don't have the magical gift of gab where I can fleece people like some of these other guys. So I need to find a way to make up the points, and I wasn't going to get the big pretty names for the saves. So what do? Get the damn holds points. They'll be available.
And you can't have pitch to contact guys like Zach Gallen. Obviously, is having not a great season by his standards, but where he hurts you is even on his decent starts, he'll come away with like 9 points because he doesn't strike many guys out.
And you got to catch guys who are not the pedigree guys. You got to catch guys like Quinn Priester or David Peterson, who people think are cast off, but are actually putting up decent outings.
Yeah, I got to eat it on the Quinn Priester thing because I didn't think he had any value, and he has put up some really, really solid, high scoring performances. Not just he was good for 5 innings. He's put up some 50, 60 point, week winning performances. Yeah. So, I was shocked because I watched Quinn Priester before and I thought his fastball shape was garbage. And I respect the Brewers for trying to put it together, but I didn't think he was anything special. But you're 100% right, Marcus, that these gems, that kind of stuff to piece together and slide by for a bit. I mean, I joked about Luis Ortiz, but I had him on my team and he's been close to 25 points a game. He's helped. Right, these things matter, and so you got to find your guys and figure it out, and it's kind of like Moneyball in that way, right? You got to find the little market inefficiency and throw your guys out there who people aren't caught on to. And I mean, it looks weird on my roster sometimes, but I joked even with some of my prospects, I took a lot of pride in saying that some of these prospects that are owned in 8 leagues, I was the first one to pick them up. Like Peyton Toll and Bishop Letson, for example. I was the only one in 128 teams who drafted those guys. And now they're owned in all 8 leagues, right? And so, you got to find out your little market.
Fellow Bishop Letson owner right here. I love that guy.
That's
love that guy.
I remember making notes of this stuff. I was making fun of Rhode Island because I felt like he was picking up the guys I had, and I was like, I see you. I see you. I see my 1 ownership going up to 2 in my own conference. But yeah, market inefficiency. That's also why I'm so comfortable trading prospects. I think I said that to you, Mark, a couple weeks back when I had made some deals. I was like, I will gladly move all my prospects in the sense of hey, I'll pick somebody up. I've got some random guys that I'm going to roll with and I'll have fun with, and let's see what happens because it's more exciting for me to pick up I was the first guy to draft Bishop Letson in this league and now he's useful. Than I had Roman Anthony. Everybody had Roman Anthony, right? I want to be the guy that's hey, I was on Bishop Letson when he was 16. I want to be that guy. So it's fun.
It's fun. I mean, what's fun about it is also you're capitalizing on some people were really just like hype merchants. It's look, I see this guy, he's got a lot of hype, and I'm willing to trade a useful win now piece like a David Peterson. I'll say it again, David Peterson. Quinn Priester, Slade Ciccone, you know what I mean? These guys who are not sexy names, but in this format are going to go out and perform for you, and you can flip that prospect. Maybe he turns into an all-star. Maybe he turns into something else. Are we about to lose Ash? Oh no!
You probably looked at the Braves score. Diddler,
I did.
The Diddler's getting oiled up in athletics land, and he gave up an inside the park home run. Oh, that's beautiful, by the way. Is that one of
there we go.
So is that one of your custom?
Yeah, this is one of our. This is the encase card right here.
That is beautiful. That little. What do you call that effect?
So the holographic. I call this the checkerboard, and the background is what is this one? That's the grid work. So there we are. I'm a little blurry, but
so your background keeps
your
bleeding
background
through.
There you go.
There we go.
Just hold that.
You might want to take a picture of it and post it in the Discord too.
I think it looks great. I'd like to get one. I might get some.
I kind of want to pick your guys' brain on something though, so I can forget about the Braves losing 5-0 right now to the Athletics. And the fact that I started Didier Fuentes. So, yeah. Anyway, what I was thinking about with the league. Originally, I stated that we wouldn't do our annual draft until the first week of February. I know there's going to be some folks kind of getting restless though to make their draft. The biggest reason for doing that is because of the international free agents. Because if you do the draft before, like we ran into this with the startup draft. We said, well, you can draft those guys, but they must sign before opening day.
And
But
then you
then
had some
like
swap outs.
two guys in particular, Shotaro Mori and Rowdy Reyes, did not get created on Fantrax in time for a couple of the leagues to draft. However, I'm looking at Fantrax right now. Rowdy Reyes has owned 0 copies.
Let me counter that, actually. How many copies of Show Mori are owned?
All 8.
All 8?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's almost like me being upset about that mental. No.
But me seeing that
It's almost
0
like
8.
me. Roddy Reyes is 16. And he was just a guy that he had a cool name and people liked him. But then they realized he was going
over
to the Braves.
100 miles an hour.
Yeah, but they realized he's going to the Braves and they let him go. But they saw a guy like Show Mori, and where is he going to a superior team like the Athletics, who are apparently routing the Braves right now? And they thought to themselves, wow, this is a guy that we should have. We should have a fair chance to have him. So
I actually don't know what his I know he's doing well, but is he doing well at both? That's what I want to know.
He better be. Honestly, I have to be a Shoto Amori guy now by default because of all.
But this is the whole reason why we're having this conversation, is because how do we do we wait until February to do the draft? Because
you got to do it.
I think
you
so.
got to do it. Well, not necessarily February, but I think you should give it a week until after the iDraft signing date.
Okay, but then I'm going to have 8 leagues starting their draft at the same time.
Well, isn't it one draft? It's not 8 leagues.
I'm talking about ABA and NABL.
I didn't tell you to commission 90 leagues, Ash. I did not come down from heaven and tell you, hey, you know what you should do with your life is commission 90 leagues, all right? Maybe find a co-commissioner who will do this. Like, talk to Luke.
I actually have a lot of help with ABA and NABL from Steven.
I like that guy too. He's
Maury right now, he's got a 116 WRC plus, but I don't guess he's pitching because I don't see any pitching stats. And I don't see a toggle. So I guess he's not pitching.
I actually haven't seen him. I haven't double checked if he's been pitching. He is supposed to be a better hitter than pitcher, by the way.
But the problem with these guys is this is the reason why we never had one domestically, is because they never develop at the same rate with the arm and the bat.
I think it's
like
not
Brendan
McKay.
That was why he switched to just pitching, was because his bat was developing slower than his arm, and so he had to give up the bat.
Right.
I mean, Jack Caglione was thrown out as a potential 2-way, and then it's just like, no, like let's focus on the thing that
I don't know how anybody
really
could see that coming though, because he was just okay at Florida pitching.
So
he would have been a reliever at best. But it's like that's time that it has to take. I mean, that's the thing. Everybody, there's going to be the scuttlebutt, like, oh, let's make the next Shohei Ohtani. There's not going to be another Shohei Ohtani. I'm sorry. Like we're seeing an absolute unicorn in history here. Like I get why you want to make that, you want to make fetch happen, but not going to happen.
But I guess my question is, do we allow people to do the you can draft the international players, but they have to be signed by opening day to count? Or do we just wait until the IFAs have drafted or have signed and been created on Fantrax before we start our draft?
When were those guys created? I mean, that's
the thing is that was the problem March? Is that
they got created at the end of January, because actually it was earlier than that. It was earlier than that because we still had a couple conferences drafting, and we were done with all 8 of our drafts early January. So
we started before the iDraft date, and we went into it with the rule, like Ash said, that you could draft the guy, but if they don't sign, you have to drop him. The issue came up with guys like Reyes and Mori because they weren't in Fantrax's system, and so they weren't draftable. But the further issue on that is that because some other conferences took time with their draft, Mori and Reyes got created while their draft was going on, and they were allowed to select them. Versus like my conference never had a chance to select Mori. So, and then when those guys drafted Mori, they got to keep him. So we kind of had to figure out like, well, that sucked, right? So that was one of the issues. I don't know if that's going to be a situation where like we're going to have guys that aren't created, because the issue is really just guys aren't, if they're not created. But I'm also one of the person to be like, listen, let's just draft on February 1st and let them deal with it. What are they going to do? Baseball doesn't start for another month anyway. I'm just being honest, right? Like it's one of those,
Well,
like,
and I don't know about you, but I have a lot of the leagues I draft in starting early to mid-January. So it's like I got other leagues I can tidy my time up.
then this is
a
128 team draft, man.
I know. I do worry about people getting impatient because there's going to be people that are draft slower. I mean, we saw some leagues that drafted that took a long time to finish their
There
draft.
was trash talk in the beginning of we didn't even have teams yet, and people were trying to kill each other because they were like, you draft so slow.
No.
And
like the Big Ten finished pretty fast, if I remember correct.
ACC started off very slow. I remember that. We were bringing up the caboose for a couple weeks, then we caught up.
I think the SEC was the last conference to finish.
I don't remember we had a whole like system on it. Those guys were like doing the average draft picks and stuff like that, which was crazy to me because I was like, I just want to figure out how to trade my guys or not, knowing that people are making these handshake deals.
Yeah.
We have no trading of draft picks, right?
Correct.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah.
I'd be very upset.
But this is, I mean, we're not doing it. It's not a conference this time. It's everybody.
It's everybody. It's the entire player pool. Yeah.
Right.
Which, because we have to have all 128, that's why I originally only created the draft for 3 rounds. Because that's still 300 and I forget how many picks.
But who's going to be the most interesting? Who's the 1-1? Is it going to be because if you did all this 1-1 for no, not the team, but I mean like who you're taking with the 1-1, right?
Well, because, I guess that depends. You have to make redshirt. People have to make their redshirt.
Correct. Signings. That's what I want to see. Because
honestly, though, I can't see any of the seniors going ahead of maybe some of your top.
But aren't you getting them as freshmen?
Yeah.
You're getting them as freshmen,
you are.
Right?
But I'm thinking about the quality of seniors that we have.
No, I disagree with you completely. I'll give you one team alone two teams alone. Remember, Chris and Tennessee have like 30 seniors each.
This could be fun to look at. Let's.
I'm telling you, because we're here. Chris and Tennessee have like 30. Like Tennessee alone, I have constantly said Tennessee has a retirement home. If you're telling me there's only one redshirtable senior on that team, I disagree.
Well, no. I think there might be more than one redshirtable senior, but if you're talking about the teams that are picking first in the draft,
are they going to be those win-now players?
If we're looking at,
why not take one of those guys and flip them then?
Oh man, Dallas Baptist probably is not going to keep Cal Raleigh.
But that's what I mean. There's going to be guys
Memphis
there.
Might take Cal Raleigh.
I'm not taking it. If I'm the 1-1, especially knowing Esmada and the fact that he has an abundance of prospects. He has so much prospecting going on. He should be the school of mind digging. But, like, it's one of those things where I think that you're going player, man. You're taking a Cal Raleigh. You're taking one of the big names.
I'm looking at Dallas Baptist roster, and I'm like, there's better seniors than I thought there was.
That's what I'm trying to tell you here. Look at the retirement homes and tell me these
only
guys.
Keep one of them. And these guys were – and I tried to tell people you would not be able to trade your seniors after the trade deadline so many times, and I'm confident that some of these teams that loaded up on seniors like Dallas Baptist did thought that after rollover they would trade their seniors that they were not going to redshirt. That's not the case.
They're going into the player
They're going
pool.
to the draft,
and then you got to sit there like you're at an aquarium and look through the glass and stare at them and think, "Oh my God, these were mine, and now they're all here." And you're staring at a freshman Cal Raleigh. You're staring, and that's just DBU. Right? Like I'm telling you, Chris and Tennessee and these teams alone, there's going to be an abundance of seniors that look, do I like me some Ethan Holiday? Do I like me, what's his name? Gage, that pitcher that was killing it.
Gage Wood.
I love
Cade
Gage
Anderson.
Wood, right? I like those guys. Cade too, right? I think I'd love him on my team. But
man, we've almost got a whole show that we could do on just like guess the.
Oh, we're going to.
That's what I'm saying. Oh, that's got to be.
I know it's going to be.
His roster. He's got Hunter Brown. He's got Jose Soriano having a great year. Cal Raleigh. Max Fried.
Just on the few that you named, right? If you
which one's Steven?
Hunter Brown, right? If you keep Hunter Brown, that means we got a freshman Cal Raleigh. You're telling me at the year Cal Raleigh might win MVP and he might hit the freshman market for our draft.
He's
right.
Like
this is
arguably leader in the club. He's got a senior Max Fried. Is a Jacob DeGrom.
So that's what I'm saying. I think it's funny because this is a weird place to tank, in my opinion. I've said this from the beginning.
I totally agree.
If I get 1-1, I'm not taking Ethan Holiday. I'm not taking Gage Wood. Give me the freshman Cal Raleigh, because even if I'm not competing right now, what the hell do you think I'm going to get for a freshman Cal Raleigh? I could ask for the goddamn moon for a freshman Cal Raleigh, because that would be the
Peter
only.
thought he was pulling one over on us in the startup draft when he took Ethan Holiday.
But that's the thing.
Open universe.
Who's the other guy? I think Jace Laviolette or something, right? Those guys. Look, I like them. I'd gladly take them, right?
Jamie
but for
Arnold.
me, I'm calm with it, because if I finish towards the tail end and there's 8 copies of a prospect, I might get the 10th ranked prospect in the draft without a problem, because we're going through. Just look at that. 9 times 8 is 72, right? So even if we went strict draft picks.
Now, what are we doing with
Hunter
Murakami?
Green. He's got Hunter Green.
What's up?
Like guys like Murakami, they have to declare, right? They have to be signed. So that's another thing that affects the draft. The Japanese players, like,
but they have to be posted about mid-December.
They get posted in December. So like we'll know before. Like we knew about Roki and stuff like that before this year. Like we knew he was going to the Dodgers. But that's what I mean. Like if I'm looking at the draft, and if prospects alone, 9 times 8, like I said, 72, right? If I'm picking 75, you weren't taking all those. I'm still getting a good prospect on my go-around. I'm fine. I still got one good prospect out of it. I'm not complaining. I don't worry about the rebuild, because I would take that guy and flip him and just say, listen, I took 1-1. I took a freshman Cal Raleigh. Who the hell wants him? Give me everything you got. Because there's not going to – the cool thing about that too, there won't really be another freshman Cal Raleigh. It will be a singular specific player.
Yeah.
You will have the leverage to do whatever the hell you want. So that's what I was saying, Ash. I don't care about the prospect at that point. I'm taking the big boy and I'm putting him up on the market and saying, come with your best. Let's figure this out. You want to retool my team? Come pay the price for a freshman Cal Raleigh. So I am really looking forward to that, because I think guys like Asmata, guys like who are at the end there who get those picks, you're going to have the pick and litter. I know you were saying you don't think there's that many seniors. Baby, there's lots of seniors. There's lots of seniors that are going to become freshmen that you're going to want on your squad. And that first, 10 picks, I don't even think we might see a prospect. Because if you give me the idea of, Ethan Holiday over a freshman Hunter Green, there's no question.
How far do you think DeGrom would fall, being 30, going into his age 38 season? I mean, that's a 40-point per game guy this year.
The thing is, I know you can't trade draft picks. I'd work out a deal with somebody. I'd be like, listen, you're on the clock. I want that DeGrom. What do you want from my team? Pick DeGrom for me, and I'll send it your way. We've done handshake deals.
We will not enforce handshakes. We will not enforce handshakes.
But God knows
if they double back on you, that's your problem.
Yeah, but if they go back at a handshake on me, for God's sake, they will.
You have a scarlet letter.
Buttermaker on you.
Yeah.
The loudest mouth in the league should not be the one you cross for a handshake deal. But I mean, I'm being honest about it. And I think it was Chris who joked about it. He says I give out strategies on the show. It's just why would I not approach pick 14 and be like, listen, you got a DeGrom on the clock. I want that guy, right? Who do you want off my team? You want these 2 prospects? I'll give you a freshman Bazana. I'll give you a freshman Gary Gilhill, type of thing. And you get 2 prospects out of it. I get my guy. We're good, right? There's got to be some way to do this. I think it's going to be interesting because the players are going to go first, and they should go first, and then the prospects. And so guys like us will get prospects. We're going to be towards the middle of the pack, and we'll still be able to get – you might be surprised. We might get a Cade Anderson. We might get a Gage, because he might be sitting around there and someone just didn't like him.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be fun. I'm excited for that much. I'll tell you that.
I mean, he's got Isaac Paredes. That's another guy
yeah.
I mean, he's a top half of the draft guy. Seiya Suzuki.
Suzuki's a nice one. Yeah.
Chris Bubich.
Hunter Green.
Taj Bradley. Exactly. Kevin Gossman. Jesus Christ.
And by the way, you're just looking at 3 or 4 teams. I'm just telling you.
I'm looking at one team. This is just Dallas Baptist.
That's what I'm saying. Now look
Josh
at
Hader.
Tennessee, or even these guys. There are picks there, and
Where's
you
Tennessee?
should logically take those players. I mean, Tennessee's got 35 seniors, I think. Chris has got so many seniors.
It's taking forever for it to pull up.
No, it's okay. I'm pulling up Chris's just to read out some of the names.
Tennessee, you've got Nolan Shanuel, you've got Jordan Westberg, Eugenio Suarez, Bo Bichette, Paul Goldschmidt, CJ Abrams, Lawrence Butler.
See? And look, this is on Florida
Who's his
International
pitchers?
side, right? You have Paredes, you have Riley Green, you have Seiya Suzuki, you have Alex Bregman, you have Hunter Brown, Giolito, you have Jack Flaherty, Aroldis Chapman, right? Like he's got tons of Kevin Gossman, Freddie Peralta. He has a senior Brian Wu. You're not keeping both the senior Brian Wu and a senior Hunter Brown, right? So like these guys are hitting the market. You tell me a freshman Wu or a freshman Hunter Brown wouldn't take a king's ransom? I might even take it and not trade it, right? And just say, all right, here's one of my cornerstone guys,
exactly.
right? Like, and start building
a pitcher
off
like
of
that.
It.
Damn.
And so I think that we're not seeing picks for draft picks for a while. That's what my whole thing has been going in. And I will, not that I'm going to like flame people, but it's one of those things where I'm going to talk about leading up to it, where it's like, please assess your value properly. That unless you really think, like, unless your first cousin is Ethan Holiday and you think he's going to become the next Shohei Ohtani type of player, right? You should probably take the freshman Cal Raleigh. You should take the freshman Hunter Brown. You should take the freshman Hunter Green, because even if you don't love that player, the value you can get will help restore balance to the league. A la Star Wars-y, you know. So like
we're going to see a prospect hugger though take one of those guys.
If it's the same person that traded Cole Ragans for 2 prospects, I'm going to hurt them.
I don't remember who that was, but
I'm not saying it out loud because that sounds like an actual threat. So like, and I only want to be accused of threatening Tom Brady, but that's the important thing. The only one who should know that is Tom Brady, that I threaten him. But it's
there's so much talent in this draft.
There really is. It's Seth Lugo. I'm looking at Baylor, senior Seth Lugo, Luis Castillo, Ryan Helsley.
I mean, Peter was asking when the first non-prospect hitter was taken. I think he might have been thinking like when was the first prospect. It could be a while before we see a prospect taken, realistically. I know that there are some prospect huggers, you're right, and some people will fall in love with it, especially if like that player gets drafted to their team. We have a ton of homers in our Discord, which I think is outstanding, right? But I think it's going to be wild because you're only getting 3 players out of it too. And you might pick 3 major, because also the thing is going to be like guys like me, I don't have enough players on my squad that even if you give me 3 players that I'm going to have a full roster. So that post-draft fab spending is going to be a bloodbath.
Yeah.
Where I might burn every dollar of my fab.
I think you'll just trade for more.
Yeah. It's gonna be fun.
I'll trade for more, you know, like.
I mean, it's funny to see the engine. You're either drafting your trade engine or you're signing prospects off the waiver wire that you can then flip and give it that win now value, you know, or the fab value. That's what makes this league really exciting for me, is like the people who are paying attention, and hype merchandising is so much fun, you know. is getting that value and capitalizing when guys are properly or improperly hyped.
Peter, I'm going to give you an answer there 100%. Without question, there's going to be a hitter taken top 10. And it's going to be a guy like we named there, like Cal Raleigh.
Like Cal Raleigh, yeah.
If he's there, if you have like the MVP, you have an MVP candidate sitting there as a freshman, that's your 1-1. Right. So I do think, just based on the way some of these rosters are constructed, because they can't keep all their seniors, that we will absolutely see a hitter taken top 10, and we might even see 2.
What I'm really fascinated about is like a guy like a Justin Steele. How far does he fall down in that first round?
Right, or like there's a senior Jared Jones that some people have, right? And Jones is going to be out for a bit. If you're not redshirting him, are you going to take a freshman Jared Jones? Yeah, of course you would want a freshman Jared Jones, right? Because, you miss a year, but you still get the idea of 3 years of good value there. And you might see people drafting for the year after that, like, hey, I can't figure it out now, but I'll get it the next year. So they're taking a freshman, expecting that to be like a sophomore contract. So I don't know. I mean, I love this talk about it, because this is where I know I'm going to lose my shit. Like, something's going to happen that I'm going to get really mad about, and that's fine, because that's kind of like par for the course for me. But I am looking forward to it. Yeah, like it kind of makes sense. But I do really look forward to this, because it does create so many opportunities for different paths. Like, you know, we were just talking about that, Mark. Like, you might take the pitcher and keep him, right? Or you could take the pitcher and move him for a haul right away to somebody who's looking at competing. And you don't know. We don't know what seniors are going to be, because you have juniors that are going to turn into seniors, this year. So there's going to be some seniors available for you to pick off some people who might only want to keep one senior, right? So like I might not, you might not even burn the fab. You might offer the fab to people and say, hey, like, I don't feel like traversing the market. Do you want my 500 fab? And I'll just take 2 players off you. Because then if someone's got like 1,000 fab, they can guarantee themselves a player, right? And you might want to guarantee yourself a player. So I like the ball game here, basically. I think that the floodgates will open up, and it's going to be ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree. Guys, I don't know about you, but it's been 2.5 hours now. But this has been a lot of fun. I think we could spend a whole show looking through these rosters and looking at seniors. I think that's an idea for a show in the future.
Yeah, I would love to do that. That would be predicting.
I think that it's been really cool talking about it and thinking about strategies and that kind of thing. So, but as we wrap up here, just give you guys an opportunity to give any kind of final words. Mark, what's your kind of final words of the night?
Man, just visit ncasecards.com.
For sure.
Give us a follow on Instagram. We really appreciate everybody's support. And no, I guess final word is keep this thing going. I mean, this is a lot of fun. Just appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me on. And it's a bevy of strategies that we see. I'll be curious to see if anyone can take out DBU.
Yeah, likewise. Ram, what's your final thoughts tonight?
Looking forward to the playoff show where we feature the actual playoff matchups. I know we did a lot of speculation tonight, but we'll see everything set in stone in just about 6 days. So I look forward to that much. And B, if you're thinking of trading Cole Reagans for prospects, don't. Please don't.
Just wanted to thank everybody for joining tonight. Appreciate everybody for watching and supporting the channel. Tomorrow night we'll have the New York Power Hour at 10:30. Ram, I'm sure we'll have plenty of stuff to talk about tomorrow night. And then the Best Damn Baseball show on Thursday night will be back. Probably at 10 o'clock. I've got to Big Brother is premiering on Thursday, so I've got to figure that time out.
I figure you're going to be doing that because Nick Kurtz just hit a grand slam against the team that they're playing.
Are you freaking kidding me?
Nope, that's my boy. Nick Kurtz is my boy, so I have notifications. So
that's 9-0.
That is 9-0. I figured
Didier gave up 8 runs today.
Seen him on a couple benches in the league here, so.
I think Didier may not be long for the major leagues right now. So I wonder if J.R. Ritchie gets the call.
Hurston Waldrop sighting.
He's a reliever, in my opinion. But anyway, thanks everybody for watching. LOL Braves.
Thanks for having us, Ash. This is fun.